Order for the Queen Anne's County Planning Commission, Thursday, September 9th, 2021. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right on time.
Okay, public comments. Do we have any public comments?
I don't. I think everyone that's in our Zoom right now is here for the actual hearing, so I don't know if there's public comment that was signed up for outside. I don't have that list.
This is not for any specific project or property that may be on the agenda.
Okay, meeting minutes review.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Extension requests, there are none. Updates, legislation and legal matters. Amy around? Here she is.
I think we only have one piece of legislation, so that is pending. So Amy Mordock, Planning Director, and Rob Tracy, our Senior Planner. If you want to give an update on your text amendment, please.
Sure. So text amendment 2106.
You have to talk louder.
Is this better? Text amendment 2106, successor structures in the side yards of corner and double frontage lots, had a public meeting on August 24th. It's scheduled to be considered by the county commissioners next week, September 14th.
Miscellaneous staff items, Amy?
I have no miscellaneous staff items. We've been working on non-miscellaneous topics that are on the agenda.
Okay, good. All right, major subdivision, Place. Rob?
All right. Applicant have anybody here? Oh, there he is. So this morning we're here for,
You want to introduce yourself?
I'm sorry, Rob Gunter, Principal Planner with Department of Planning and Zoning. This morning we're here for major subdivision for Place. The applicant is proposing an administrative subdivision to transfer acreage from parcel 300 to parcel 38 in an effort to create a 10-lot major subdivision. And this morning they are seeking preliminary subdivision approval. If granted, they'll still have to come back to you for final approval as well. So here we can see the project is on Kent Island, about midway down, directly adjacent to Bay City. These are the two parcels. So parcel 300 will transfer 1.165 acres to parcel 38. So the existing property line is the dashed red line with the yellow under it. That property line will go away, thereby making parcel 38 larger, and the remaining parcel of 300 will be this front piece here with the existing dwelling on it. The property is within the Chester-Stevensville growth area, and it is zoned NC 20. So this is the subdivision. The lots range anywhere from just over 20,000 square feet to over 62,000 square feet, most of which are in the mid-20s, the upper 20s. There will be a sidewalk and street trees. There are non-tidal wetlands and buffers. There's no proposed disturbance to these areas. The hatched area surrounding the neighborhood is forest conservation. They're meeting their requirements with retention of 2.85 acres on site. There are various stormwater structures, but the main is the purple line that follows here off-site. This is that same image overlaid onto an aerial so you can see how it fits into the neighborhood. Surrounding the left and the top is Bay City. The project proposes access via Victoria Drive, which does come through Bay City. There have been questions as to permitted access on that road, specifically with the extent and layout of Stafford Road and Victoria Road. Stafford Road is a public or private road, I'm sorry. Victoria is a public road, and where those intersections meet. We have included in your packet a letter from 2016 from the then Director of Department of Public Works, Todd Mon, who stated that if they got adequate frontage, they could obtain access via Victoria Drive. The proposed administrative subdivision is what will give them that adequate frontage Mr. Mon spoke about, thereby allowing them access to Victoria Drive.
I wrote a letter along.
I haven't seen it. So these are a few of the housing options, excuse me, for the neighborhood. The sizes will range from 2,200 square feet to 4,000 square feet, and the prices will be starting in the mid to high 500s. With that, I can answer any questions or turn it over to the applicant, who are on Zoom as well as here.
I have a question for you, Mr. Gunther. If you go back to the colored slide, yeah, you got it. The purple there, the bioswale grass swale that appears to extend off property, can you speak to that?
Yes, so it extends to the is it VFW, I believe? VFW
American
property.
Legion, I think.
American Legion, I'm sorry, property.
Easement.
We do have DPW here if you have particular questions about that.
That'll be handled through an easement.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Ian,
That?
would you like to?
Yes. Michael Foster. I'm the attorney that represents Landbridge. And via Zoom, we have Barry Griffin. I apologize for both of us, Madam Chairman, to you as well as other members of the board. I've had eye surgery, so I can't see. Barry, who's been vaccinated, has breakthrough COVID. So I'm not too sure the adequate representation that our client had, but we're both appearing before you to get this matter, hopefully for preliminary approval. The only thing, I have nothing to, maybe if Barry would like to go over the, oh, and Lindsay Dixon is also here. So, Barry, would you like to just go through
And
and,
what part does Lindsay play?
he's the owner of Landbridge.
Okay.
Can everyone hear me?
We can.
Apologies, Madam Chairwoman and members of the Planning Commission for not being able to attend today. Appreciate you allowing me to participate this way. I don't have a whole lot to add. Rob gave a very adequate and factual staff report. I've actually been involved with this property since about 2005. Initially with a different developer and a project that did not have include the PlaySec parcel 38. At that time, there were about 11 lots proposed. That project did not go anywhere because of issues with access to Route 8 being very problematic. Became involved with Lindsay in about 2014 when he was working with the Living Waters Church to try to find a way to do infill development on this lot. We've been working on this a long time. There's been a lot of negotiations with the American Legion, with the PlaySec. Mr. Dixon has purchased the PlaySec property. To put together this parcel that we think actually works and provides infill residential lot development consistent with or large lots slightly larger than the adjoining Bay City lots. that back up to us on Chesapeake Drive. We did develop an extensive stormwater management plan and design for this property that consists of large grass swale and bioswales to meet and achieve ESD measures for the property, as well as to deal with quantity control for stormwater management to manage the 2, 10, and 100-year storms. The water would ultimately move to a series of existing conveyance ditches on land south of the American Legion that are owned by the church, and ultimately it works its way down and across Route 8 into Warehouse Creek. With forest conservation, the site has a somewhat unique history in that it somewhere in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a weather event that created a tremendous amount of deadfall on this property, and as a result, the property sort of became overgrown and filled with invasives in the center part. We were able to, with county permission, clear that out and determine where the better woodlands were. And as part of our forest conservation plan, we are protecting the woodlands around the perimeter and in between lots, so that we're trying to do as minimal amount of clearing as we need to do to accommodate these 10 new lots. And I guess, I'd be available to answer any other questions you might have as we move forward. But we do believe that after a lot of work with the county and other property owners, we've got a good infill development project here for the community.
Madam Chairman, just a couple of other things I would like to point out. If you can go back to the administrative subdivision plat.
Talking about this part?
Yes, that would be fine. Like Barry, I also was contacted by an original intended developer some almost 15, 20 years ago. And they looked into this, and they had entered into an agreement. If you look up at Lot 1, which is next to the American Legion and fronting on Roman Coke Road or Route 8, that Lot 1, they spoke to them in the American Legion, and that original developer gained enough land to go on and put an access out that way to Roman Coke Road. It was somewhat problematic because there was a house on Lot 1 at the time. It was tough to get a little bit of the necessary width in there. It was not viewed favorably by Maryland State Highway Administration, because those of you that are familiar with this is right where the turn is after Bay City. It is probably the worst place to put any entrance out on that roadway. This property, also, if you look, there's a small sliver of land that extends from the main parcel out towards Route 8. That is part of this parcel, the larger tract of land. And I think that probably historically there was a lane in there, like a driveway, and that property looked like it did probably originally obtain access from Route 8 over that small piece of land that it owns in fee. Obviously, the American Legion would like to have that. Part of our agreement with getting the easement along the back for stormwater management is that we would do, part of the administrative subdivision is that we would give them that little strip of land that would no longer be needed by this property, give it to the American Legion. All of this property, including the American Legion, was originally, going back 75, 80 years ago, was part of the farm where the school is now located. Route 8 severed that property. So for agricultural purposes, it wasn't as important to the farmer. The farmer sold off some of that property, including this property, as well as the adjoining lands of the American Legion, which go all the way back to, you'll see Block 3, Lot 1. All of that are the American Legion lands. So I think at the northeast corner, part of that Lot 1, which we're taking and carving off part to add to this parcel, that actually is a historic structure that Mr. Placek bought probably 30 to 40 years ago. I think it was probably the original farmhouse on this part of the farm. And he went on and restored that. There was a historic easement put on that. We have talked with Historic Preservation. State of Maryland has consented to, because we're not going to disturb the structure, to severing off the back portion of this property, which is what you see on the proposed administrative subdivision. So in some respects, we're kind of cleaning up some loose ends on subdivisions that occurred 75 years ago. And as to Victoria Drive, if you look at Lot 1, which is the last lot in Bay City, please note that the driveway to that property comes off the end of Victoria Drive, as Victoria meets Stafford. Victoria Drive has been deeded to Queen Anne's County, and Queen Anne's County has maintained Victoria Drive for over 20 years as part of the county roadway system. Lot 1, who takes their driveway off of that portion of Victoria Drive, a county roadway, also has an address of Victoria Drive. I also have brought a copy of the recorded plat of the subdivision of Bay City, and Plat 1, Victoria Drive, clearly goes up to what is now this parcel and simply stops where that starts. And I don't know whether you want to put that on the overhead projector or not.
I don't think we have an overhead projector anymore.
If anyone would like to see that, the recorded plat is here, but it all dovetails together. And I think that certainly if you look at the easement also at this plat, you'll see that the natural drainage way that Mr. Lee was asking about, if you look, the natural drainage way already comes down from that property towards the Christ Church or property of Camp Wright. And so that is where the bioretention area would be constructed through the granting of an easement. I have nothing.
Foster, sorry to interrupt, but while you're on the topic, in that easement language, the responsible party for maintenance will be whom?
Be Land Bridge.
Okay. Even though it's not on your property, part of the easement agreement says you will mow and maintain as functional, blah, blah,
And
blah.
I've got to go back and look, and I think, responding to a question, I think we put Land Bridge, but ultimately it would be because they're going to sell out at some point in time, that responsibility would go collectively to the lot owners in this subdivision.
So there's some responsible party other than the owner.
That's correct, Mr. Lee. That's correct. The portion of the stormwater facility that's on our property is a bioswale for the ESD treatment, and the portion that's on the American Legion is a wide grass swale, and that's mainly for quantity control. But all of the stormwater management within the community will ultimately be the responsibility of the HOA and the lot owners. And DPW has worked with us and made it very clear that they'll be reviewing all those documents to ensure that adequate maintenance will continue to be able to occur in the future.
And Mr.
And it sounds like it's essentially just grass mowing, Barry. It's not a complicated under
Yes.
drains and things like, okay.
No.
And Mr. Lee, what we've also done is I've drafted the declaration of covenants for the subdivision, and I put specific language and sent it to Mr. Drummond, specific language in the covenants that acknowledges that this bioretention area exists and it's their responsibility and that they will hold the county harmless from any liability, et cetera.
Any questions?
I should note that the entrance to this proposed subdivision on Victoria Drive has generated some opposition. You're probably going to hear it shortly. And oh gosh, this has been going on for so long. Probably 5 years ago, 4 years ago, at the either Planning and Zoning or the County Commissioner's request, I looked through the title history of these properties and the roads, and there is a opinion letter from me somewhere that concludes, or it indicated was my opinion, that so long as the property could get sufficient access to Victoria Drive, that it would be that would be appropriate and consistent with the title history.
Okay. John, do you have a list of,
I do. 2 pages.
Before we get on to that, Madam Chair, and I'm ask, I guess, Mr. Foster, the wetland buffer in the Lot 3, there's I think it's 25 feet off a wetland. It's delineated on sheet 4 or 5 there. What plans do you have to maintain that 25-foot buffer? As we all likely know, during construction is one thing, but once it's established as a lot, what will be that buffer?
Well, first thing, it will be staked, and Barry, you'll have to answer the question, is there any replantings planned in that area, the 25-foot wetland buffer?
I believe the buffers are all pretty much within forest conservation, Mr. Lee, but I can't see real clear.
Yeah, it looks like it goes beyond the wood line, Barry.
It does on that one lot, right?
That's correct. I just wondered how that is going to be maintained over time.
Well, it'll be the responsibility of the property owner to respect that buffer.
It'll get
and
mowed.
I think,
Right. That's my point.
I think it is something that could be also added to the, to a deed restriction or a covenant with that lot.
Yeah, we can put an additional covenant in the restrictive covenants that will be recorded prior to any out conveyance.
Put some signs up.
Yeah, once
Then the signs come down and people start mowing it.
I see it all the time.
I don't know how you stop that.
I would point out, Mr. Lee,
Go ahead.
hey, that wetland, we've gone back and forth with MDE on that. At one point, they were not going to take jurisdiction of it at all. It's an isolated wetland. And then in a later review, Mr. Pajak decided he would like to keep it. So we've been working around it ever since. But it is an isolated pocket wetland. Just informational.
What's the vegetation in that area, Barry? Is it invasives or is it actually some trees?
No, it's actually one of the more open areas on the property. It's wooded. It's entirely wooded, and it'll stay that way. It's basically just a low spot by reason of topography.
any other questions from the,
A question, and maybe this is for the engineer. The flooding, we got these correspondence from Bay City residents. Is this going to have any negative impact on their flooding problem, which doesn't seem to be related based upon what's been presented?
Well, we do have to control our runoff, both in terms of quality and quantity. Right now, about half of this site drains towards the back of the lots that front on Chesapeake Drive. And with the grading and the subdivision design, it's only going to be the portions of the backyards along those lots that abut the Chesapeake Drive lots that is going to drain the same way it always has. Everything else is going to go into this storm drain system where we are treating for the 2, the 10, and the 100-year storm, which is not a usual requirement, but because of concerns that we're not directly near a tidal outfall, the county asked us to do that, which we did. Also, the homes that are on those lots that back up to Chesapeake Drive, with home development, they will also have additional stormwater management features, whether disconnection or rain gardens or flow-through planter boxes. So in actuality, the situation of drainage towards the existing Bay City homes should be much improved.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay. Ready for public comment? David Blitzer? Yes, please. Introduce yourself and then,
Folks, my name is David Blitzer. My business address is Wise and Blitzer Attorneys at Law 101 Log Canoe Circle, Suite M in Stevensville, Maryland. I'm here today on behalf of the Bay City Property Owners Association to express some of their concerns with respect to the proposed subdivision. I want to make clear that at the outset here that there's an obvious legal issue in play here with respect to the ownership of the roads, and specifically where this proposed subdivision is proposing to access the road system. Staff have indicated that their belief that it's accessing Victoria Drive, which is a public right-of-way. In reality, there is no public dedication in the land records for this section of Victoria Drive to the county. It doesn't exist. And Bay City, when it was created, all of the roads inside this community were reserved for the community, owned, maintained, paid for, and for the exclusive use of the community. So only the roads that have an actual public, properly recorded dedication to the county, that the county accepted within this community, are actually public right-of-ways. Without that actual dedication of the road to become a public right-of-way, all of the infrastructure in this community is owned and maintained and used by the community. This is more than just an issue of legal title, right? Who owns this piece of road or doesn't own this piece of road? This has real impacts on the community itself. This infrastructure is already utilized by 800 plus lots within this development. You'll probably hear from some folks who live there that there are already issues with traffic backing up during peak hours trying to get out of the community from Victoria Drive and onto the road that accesses at the light here, Roman Coke Road. So now we're talking about adding potentially 20 plus additional cars to an already congested or taxed infrastructure system. The other concern here is not just the additional traffic, but obviously also what is to prevent folks who are coming out of this new development, when they see in the morning going to work that there is a backup down Victoria Drive trying to get out of the community, from taking a left and going down Stafford Road, which by all accounts, including planning and zoning staff, agree is a private road, to gain access inside the Bay City and use a different route to try and get out. There are two ways to get out of that development. There is nothing in this proposed subdivision or any of the plans at this time that would prevent folks from this new subdivision from utilizing the private roads in the community in order to avoid the traffic on what is purportedly a public right-of-way. You know that there's no dedication for this section of Victoria Drive because there are sections of Victoria Drive that weren't
Sorry,
properly
time's up.
dedicated.
You have some written comments that you'd like to submit?
I do actually have this whole binder.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
You bet.
No. Next would be Jay Sullivan.
Ms. Dodson, I'm gonna let our VP of the HOA go ahead of me, if you don't mind. Mr.
Okay, and that would be,
Next person in line, Mike Drysdale.
okay.
Yeah, I have a question.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Give time to our attorney if we signed up? to
I'm
speak?
sorry, what?
Can we give time to the attorney to continue speaking if we signed on?
We have his binder. That's up to the chairperson.
Some of the residents are willing to forfeit their time to the lawyers so we can complete sharing information with you.
What do you think?
And candidly, our goal
Don't
is
have a
not to
problem
drag
with
this on all day.
Yeah.
Sorry with me. Sorry with me. You can come back up, David.
Okay, thank you.
How many people,
Well,
how many people? are
How
for-
many people are giving up their time?
They're most likely they'll probably be.
Well, give me a name, because I'm going to check you off now.
You can take Charles Crandall off that list.
Okay? Okay?
9 minutes.
Wait a minute, where's Catherine?
I don't need more than that.
Good? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay?
Wait a minute, Jay, did you give your time up?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll put them on here.
all right.
That's 9 minutes.
Yep.
I appreciate it, and I promise you I won't take much more than that. I do just want to make sure that everybody understands here that the only document currently recorded in the land records that has any indication of the boundaries, the terminus of where the private road ends and the public road, purportedly public road of Victoria Drive begins, is a 2017 plat recorded by the Bay City community, which is in the land records, and it actually reflects where these boundaries are.
And it's only 4 years old?
Correct. And that was recorded as a result of this initial application back in 2016, which is when Mr. Todd Maughan's letter was addressed that Mr. Gunter discussed in his preliminary comments. And I just want to make clear that Mr. Maughan's comments were not about the ownership of those roads. As a matter of fact, Mr. Maughan specifically says, according to SSTAT records, property owned by the Plastics appears to have adequate frontage, on Victoria Drive, provided the church verifies the boundaries on the attached map and acquires the land, right? And so he's not saying definitively, this is something that can be done. He's saying it looks that way, you're gonna have to find out for yourselves. At that time, the applicant had every ability, just like Bay City POA, to take some sort of action to try and define and solidify and confirm the boundaries of these rights of way. They chose not to. They could have filed a declaratory judgment action. In fact, I believe staff at one point recommended that. That was comments from Public Works that said maybe somebody needs to file a declaratory judgment action in court to ask the court to define the boundaries. The applicant chose not to do that. Bay City did. Bay City went ahead and filed a plat and said, we own all the roads that aren't publicly dedicated. There is no public dedication in the land records for this section of Victoria Drive. We want to make it clear, it is ours.
When did Bay City do that?
I have
It's on the screen.
August 30th.
Please, one at a time.
It's up on the screen here. I'm not sure if you can see that, Madam Chairwoman.
2017.
I've got one in
you said.
front of me.
Which part?
Yeah, September 2017.
And so this was done, obviously, in response to this initial application at that time, and the realization that there was nothing clarifying this in the land records. There was certainly no public dedication.
Do you take the position that a surveyor can change by recordation of a plat or survey, whatever you want to call it, change the original subdivision plat that's on record from the 1950s?
No, sir.
Okay.
And that's not.
Just wanted to be
that's not our
clear.
Yeah, no, that's not our position at all. Our position is simply that A public right-of-way doesn't become a public right-of-way until there's a proper dedication accepted by the county commissioners and recorded in the land records, and that's not what happened here. There's a section of Victoria Drive in the land records. There's a public dedication concerning Victoria Drive and accepted by the commissioners between two other roads further down towards the entrance and exit to the community. That was not done here. The reason that these private ways were reserved as private and not all of the roads in Bay City were dedicated to become public was specifically for the purpose of ensuring that there was not going to be a flood of access of additional traffic from outside properties that were not within the original development of Bay City onto the streets in Bay City, that families are walking and riding bikes on, and that the community is paying to maintain. And so I just wanted to make that clear, that there is a serious legal question here. And as far as Bay City is concerned, the only document in the land records that defines these boundaries is recorded in 2017, and it's in front of you right now. There is nothing else that reflects the boundaries being proposed by the applicant, nor to suggest that they have access to this road or that that portion of the road is public right-of-way. Bay City also has invoices. They've been paying to maintain Stafford Road. Right, so the idea that there is now the potential for 20 additional cars, let's say, to be utilizing infrastructure that these folks are paying for as part of their dues and assessments without any contribution is a real problem as well. And nothing about that has been addressed by the applicant. Mr. Griffith talked about the lengthy negotiations with the American Legion property and with the Placics. As far as I know, there's been no effort made to negotiate with Bay City and to offer to contribute for the infrastructure costs or otherwise. There's been no agreement reached or proposed. The applicant is simply just trying to get access to infrastructure that it does not intend to pay for. I just want to quickly point out one last comment.
Who paved Victoria Drive?
I'm sorry?
Who paved Victoria Drive in this area?
Evidently, the county has been maintaining that section of Victoria Drive, and I don't think there's any dispute about that.
Who plows the snow?
You'd have to ask the community. I'm not sure. I don't live there, so I don't know, but I'm assuming the county, if they're paving. And I don't think there's any dispute about that. It's more a question of the county is not paving or plowing Stafford Road. And so the question is, where does that end?
Right. Great.
The final comment I want to make is with respect to the forest clearing that's being proposed here. There was a comment by Mr. Griffith about some clearing that had been done several years ago with the permission of the county. That's just simply not the case. The applicant went ahead and cleared a significant portion of its parcel, the church property, prior to this new application for the major subdivision. And upon investigation, ultimately the county concluded that it was clearing dead trees that were caused by storm damage. It was substantial in area. Call it what you will. My question is to the applicant and to this commission, is that area that was already cleared being included or factored into the proposed area now to be cleared or not? If a significant portion, if an acre, 2 acres has already been cleared previously, I think that has to be included as part of the same project. And that total acreage should be reflected to include that initial clearing that was done years ago. Do you have any questions for me at this time? I know that was a lot.
Apparently not.
I appreciate your time and attention. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Jay Sullivan? Oh, Mike's next.
Okay.
Hello.
Good morning. Thank you again. My name is Michael Dreisidel. I've been a resident of Queen Anne's County for approximately 20 years, and I'm the vice president of the Bay City Homeowners Association. As you know, Bay City is a beautiful community with about 742 homes. I'm a proud resident. I love it. It's a great community. It's a diverse group of people that really take pride in the area. I'm here this morning to share with you Bay City's position on the new proposed development by Landbridge. Unfortunately, this project has popped up several times over the last several years, And each time Bay City, HOA, and the residents reject the development. We simply do not want that development there. There's several reasons behind that. Just a few reasons. I'll just highlight it really quick. The proposed developments in a conservation area. There are two entrances into Bay City. We already spoke about the possible impact on traffic. You know, it took me almost 15, 20 minutes to get out on Route 8 this morning. You add additional traffic, it's going to cause an impact on the welfare of the residents. Additionally, one of the concerns is if this was to be approved, Stafford, as you know, is a private road. Victoria is probably about, I would say, a quarter mile, okay? As traffic backs up on Victoria, what would prevent the residents from the development going down a single lane road, Stafford, to gain access to the second entrance on Irene? So it's going to be a problem. It's a challenge. Candidly, we already have challenge with speeders in the neighborhood, and you add that level of frustration, it's only going to have an impact on the safety and welfare of the residents. Another thing that came up was what's to prevent the new development residents from accessing the amenities within the community. We have a boat ramp, a pavilion area that's beautiful that is reserved for the residents. Additionally, we have a large playground area with a beautiful view. What's to prevent the new residents from gaining access to that? How would we manage it? And then lastly, I'm not going to go verbatim with what Brian mentioned, but if you see that plot, that's something that was put together by Bay City. It's on record with the county. And then there's one other thing I'd like to mention. In 1995, when the community turned over the roads to the county, there was an inventory sheet. Do you mind popping up that other document, of which the Maryland Transportation Authority put together an inventory list? And this is pretty interesting. If you could rotate that and go to page 2, please. You'll see that based upon the inventory that they put together, it clearly states that Victoria dead ends into Stafford. If you take a look at the notes, if you could rotate that.
I'm trying.
It clearly states from and to Victoria Road, from Bay City Drive to
upside down
Stafford. So you'll be able to see what it displays here in a minute.
There you go, yeah.
Take your word for it.
Well, I think it's important for you to see it because it is a document that was provided. So there you go. So the inventory of Victoria Road from Stafford Road to Bay City Road. So what that is telling us is that Victoria dead ends into Stafford Road, and that therefore is Bay City property. So with that being said, I appreciate your time. The residents and the HOA are pretty adamant about this project, and you know, one of the things that caught everybody by surprise last Thursday before a 3-day weekend, there was a public notice put up in the area. It didn't have a time of the meeting, and I'll be honest with you, they put together a beautiful proposal. Okay, they've had months and years to put that together. We scrambled within 4 business days to put this together. So that being said, I appreciate your time, and does anybody have any
I had
questions
a question for you.
Yes,
Did
ma'am.
it truly take you 15 to 20 minutes this morning to get out of?
It was rough. It was at least 3
Is
to
that
4.
every day?
Three traffic
It's
lights, man.
yeah, it's approximately three to 4 traffic lights. It's painful, and that's going out Irene where there's not a light. There's a light down at Bay City, and it's going to be a challenge because you ask some of the residents who live in that area. Traffic's backed up way past Victoria and Chesapeake on a weekday. For people going to work, people going to the bridge, people taking their kids to school, and the concern is, once that traffic starts to back up down Victoria Way, you know, the new residents for this potential subdivision are going to gain access to Stafford Road, which is a single lane road that's not maintained very well, and it's going to cause a challenge for people to go and bypass Bay City, go up and around and through Irene. So we're concerned about the safety and welfare of our residents, and we just want to do the right thing.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay.
May I ask you a question? So the access to some of the amenities within your community, how do you prevent people from outside of your community presently from accessing those amenities? Do you have like a sticker for the marina or a
That's a
plaque
great-
for your car, or?
That's a legitimate question. I'm glad you asked.
There's a
that.
lot of people that live down there, so.
Correct. So the pavilion, we have security cameras and we have a lock gate, okay? Over at the playground, there's a lock gate, but we've had a lot of challenges with non-residents coming in and doing some nefarious things to the area. So we posted signs, okay? We have a community watch. There's an unofficial patrol that goes through. And if there's unrecognized vehicles down there or folks there, typically after hours, we have a great relationship with some of the law enforcement residents in the area that can come in and help mitigate that, or we contact Queen Anne's County.
Okay, Jay
Thank you.
Sullivan.
Good morning, Mr. Lee, Madam Chairman, members of the board. I appreciate you working with us on everything. If I may, I happen to snap a
So
picture
identify
this
yourself,
morning
please.
of the traffic. Jay Sullivan, I'm
Okay.
a homeowner in Bay City.
Okay.
Actually, I own the adjoining property. I snapped this morning on the way up here at 7:49. That's traffic. Okay?
It's some
The
traffic.
black SUV stopped at the next cycle of the light. Okay, there was still cars to the left. I work from home, so it kind of surprised me, so I snapped it real quick. Mr. Lee, your points are extremely valid, right? What happens to this green space around this neighborhood to be maintained, right? The picture's been painted that this is some beautiful hardwood lot and lots of grass and runoff. It's sticker bushes, invasive species, berry bushes. The, can you show the county thing with the yellow line, their development thing with this, with the neighborhood in it? The little drainage area that's off in this corner towards the Legion is tall trees. It's a mud field year-round underneath that. You can go on the Legion property, go to the dumpster, look behind it. The Legion parking lot's a Legion property, dumps into it as it is now, right? That's not gonna do anything to help us. There's nothing there to absorb anything. It's dry. When it's dry, it's dried mud like desert out there, okay? There's not a lot going on here. There's just no benefit to this project for our neighborhood, and as it's been made clear already, it takes access across our property, our maintained road, in order to make this happen, regardless of how it gets sliced up, right? Stafford Road extends all the way to the end of this property. There's not a lot in it for us to, for this to be approved and go. This is just building, you know, because there's property there, somebody donated this, somebody owes money on it, whatever's going on. Not really our concern, but it has no value, no interest to us, and leads to future problems for us, right? Maintenance of the swell, maintenance of the buffer zones, traffic in and out. It's not 20 cars. Everybody's probably got 2 cars, right? So there's 40. You got deliveries, school buses, Amazon, FedEx, UPS. Our little street of 20 homes is looking at 100 potential more vehicles up and down it to get to this intersection where I showed you this traffic this morning. Not real positive for us, okay? The rest of my points have pretty much been made, but I appreciate your time and attention, and thank you for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Welcome. Linda Crandall.
I'm Linda Crandall. My husband and I purchased our home at 703 Victoria Drive back in 1999. And one of the things we love about our road is that we know all of our neighbors and we look out for each other. One of the things I'm most concerned about is if you give access to this new community coming through our street is the safety of our children. We have 9 school-age children that every day walk down Victoria to meet the bus at Bay City and Victoria Drive. Bay City backs up roughly 2 blocks for about a 60 to 90 minute period of time every weekday morning because of people going to school and work. The other side of Bay City is accessed by the 2 schools that are there at that light as well, plus the regular main traffic of Route 8, which everybody has said accessing Route 8 from a new community would be devastating. But it's only devastating because of the new communities popping up all over the place on Kent Island. We're being overdeveloped. The children basically we've had to move them back from standing on the corner to make sure that the traffic doesn't impede their safety. When we have a heavy rain, water pools down there, it actually becomes a flood area right there at Bay City and Victoria Drive. That's standard record. We have speeders on Bay City Road, which unfortunately are residents of Bay City for the most part that we've had a problem with. But I can see that becoming a problem if we have more traffic coming down Victoria Drive. Victoria Drive is roughly, you can get 2 cars going past each other. It's not that wide, but that's not a problem. But if you have all of the construction vehicles coming in for the next 2 years, that's going to create an incredible safety feature as far as children playing on the roads are concerned or going back and forth across the streets to each other's houses. We're going to have excess, I guess, or additional trash pickups, utility vehicles, and everything else coming in on our street as well. The 9 children reside there permanently. On weekends, we have people's grandchildren coming in to the community as well. And we've always been able to have the type of community where you can bike ride, walk your kids, walk your dogs, everything else. And if traffic is then, if they decide to veer off of Victoria and go on Stafford, there's only room for 1 vehicle on Stafford. It's a privately owned road. That's going to create a nightmare for the 5 houses that are there, plus anybody else trying to access their homes. So I just wish everybody would consider the fact that even though the nice new community will be a great place for these 10 new homes and the people and the families that are going to be there, it's going to become a nightmare for the people who have been in Bay City, who pay HOA dues, and have made this their home for years and years. It's going to be a logistic nightmare for us. Thank you.
Excuse me, before you leave, ma'am, is Stafford a one-way or two-way street?
Well, it can be 2-way, but it's only, you can only get 1 car
Width,
through it
but it's
anyway. Yeah, somebody else
bi-directional.
has to pull over and wait for that car to pass before they can get through.
And it's tar and chip, I see, right?
I beg your pardon?
Tar and chip, the surface?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what it said.
Yeah.
And Ms. Millay, it's marked as 50-foot wide, but
Okay,
it
we're-
visually doesn't reference what it actually is because of growth and where the actual paved part is right now. It's
Okay.
probably 10 feet wide, 12 feet wide.
Thank you.
Bob Rowley, did I do that right?
I'm not going to repeat what our lawyer said, but.
Could you
I-
identify yourself, please?
I'm sorry. I'm Robert Riley. I live at 721 Victoria Drive. I'm the adjacent property listed here as Lot 1. This project bumps right up against me. I bought this property in 2006. It was built in the late 60s by Mr. Ringgold, and he put his driveway on the side that runs right along the property line of this proposed project. And it empties out in what I believe to be Stafford. And I go from there on to Victoria. Now, if the project goes forward, these people have not talked to me at all, but the developer who tried to do this several years ago said, you're landlocked and you'll have to come to some agreement with us as to how you exit your property. So to date, I would prefer this project not go forward, and I would like to go on record that I'm opposed to it. But the developer has made no effort to communicate how this would happen. You know, how do I get out of my property? Because the first developer said I would be landlocked. What happens when they put sewer in there? What happens when they put water in there to the property? How do I get out of my property? How do I enjoy my property? So I just wish to go on record that I'm opposed to this project.
Michael Timmons?
Good morning. My name is Michael Timmons. I'm a 34-year resident of Victoria Drive. I live at 715, which is 2 houses down from Lot 1. And my issues are the existing infrastructure coming in and out of our community is very inadequate at this point. The end of Victoria and Victoria Drive floods out dozens of times a year. About a year and a half ago, the county came in and cut
At this end where you live?
at the end of the main entrance into Bay City, where the
Main
traffic
entrance,
light is.
okay.
It floods out dozens of times every year. The county, the culverts are collapsed, have been collapsed for years. The county came and cut the road like over a year ago to replace the one, still has not been replaced. The existing infrastructure does not support any extra vehicles coming in and out of Bay City Drive. We have Route 8, which has where we live at, across the street, is 2 schools and a park. We'd have no existing crosswalks. Out here at the high school, we have flashing lights to slow vehicles down coming into the school zone. We don't even have that on Route 8. And we keep adding vehicles to Route 8 in Bay City, not thinking the infrastructure that is already there is not adequate. I can't see how we can keep adding and destroying the life on Ken Island just for development. It doesn't make no sense. We have so much development on Ken Island right now, and all of you are aware of this. Why are we going to keep adding more at this point when evidently the county roads department cannot keep up with the amount of roads that they have now? It shows, I have pictures on my phone of the collapsed culvert, and the stormwater maintenance is not there. It doesn't exist at Bay City Drive and Victoria Drive. And I think before you add any other vehicles to this road, this needs to be addressed. Because we're talking about 10 homes. So we're probably talking 3 cars per home. That's over 100 vehicles a day added to Victoria Drive, which they say, when you come in Bay City in the mornings from 7 o'clock till after the schools are open, Bay City Road backs up to Chesapeake. So you're going to add more cars coming up Victoria, so we already struggle to get in and out of the community. If any of you would go in there and sit at the intersection in the morning, you would see. Come visit the neighborhood. Take a look for yourself. See after a heavy rain what pictures are out there. My next item is the developers have had years to put this together. We've had less than a week to get ourselves together to come see you, ladies and gentlemen, to discuss our concerns. This needs to be tabled today until all these things are taken care of. The ownership of the road is the first thing. Could be a civil dispute. So how can we go forward with development when we have a dispute on the property to begin with? You know, we can show invoices that we have maintained that whole portion of Stafford all the way to Lot 1. And it's recorded in Bay City's name. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is it Matt Hanukkah or Manica?
Pretty close.
When you come up, you can explain to me.
Sorry, Matt Ronica. Currently live in Chester, Maryland. I'm a previous 26-year owner, 712 Victoria Drive, the flag lot at the corner of Stafford and Victoria.
Previous, you're not an owner currently?
I am not currently an owner, but I have all the information.
Okay.
So, a little bit of history about back when the water and sewer went in and how the roads got divided and how we decided where Stafford stopped and started, why we did it. That was basically over the hood of the truck with Todd Mon and the Bay City Board of Directors. The decision was made at that time as we were deciding which roads to keep public and private, where would they end and why would they end that way. And we made a decision at that time that Stafford Road was going to go straight across and Victoria would stop basically the center of that of the radius there, for the sole purpose of we did not want other neighborhoods or other properties that weren't part of Bay City using our facilities for that to get there. We've, with regards to the Placek property, lot three, I believe it is on there. So that's actually 2 plots. The original one where the historic home is, and in 1983 they acquired the half acre on the back. It's not, they're not separating anything now to do anybody any favors. That lot was purchased in 1983. It was a half acre lot. It's deeded. The purpose of that, I don't know. But that was that. The only other thing I was going to say was with respect to it, it's always been is, and they've all talked to it already, is it's the quality of life. You know, Bay City is being asked at this time to bear the burden for somebody else's development, and they're the ones that are going to suffer. They're the ones that have the children on the street, the number of cars, they pay for the infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera. If you went back to the original Dixon property, which turned into the Christ Church or the church property, there is a 15-foot right-of-way that goes by the Legion, and that was designed exactly for that. I think originally nobody has a problem with it for what it was originally designed for, and I don't think anybody currently has a problem with the amount of traffic. If they want to come out on Route 8, it's big enough for one or two houses, whatever they want to develop it for. I don't see there's a reason, for them to put the burden on Bay City in order to develop that. And then one other thing, if you want to see the lot clearing that went on in August 2016, I have pictures on my phone of exactly what was happening. During that lot clearing, they actually disturbed that non-tidal wetlands, and Maryland Department of Environment made them replant a certain section of that based on what they did. The claim was it was from the derecho. They came in 4 years later and started coming across. You can't see, if you see where the lot line is of the backside of 300, they came on the other side of that where there's a fire hydrant, came across Bay City property on Stafford Road and came through our property. We ended up calling the police on them for trespassing. But if you want to see pictures of the exact extent, be glad to share them. Pass my phone around. You can look at all the pictures you want. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the end of public comment.
The paper filled up, well, you could just add it, if you don't mind.
All right, come up. What's your name? All right,
You
come
have
up,
a
introduce
Zoom
yourself
comment
again.
also.
Sure. My name is Keith Hutchins. I live on McKay Road in Bay City. The reason I wanted to speak was what they're trying to do, and as you see McKay Road with all the flooding, excuse me, there is a section of water that comes through our property that we've had to pay over $20,000 to have our crawl space redone. This is going to add to more water coming to our area that we got to come out of pocket for. Who's going to take care of that?
Where do you live?
McKay, which is, as you come into Bay City, all that water that they're talking about flooding comes through them drainages that the county can't even maintain. On the other side, adjacent to our property.
One second, please. We're still looking for McKay on the screen here.
I'm in Bay City.
Have to go north.
Okay.
Right there on that corner of Bay City, all that water funnels through the backside of Bay City Road. It comes to the inside of that corner and it's supposed to flow back out to Chesapeake Bay. That area has been designated wetlands. The county can't clear it. It backs up and floods our houses out all the time. If you add more infrastructure, it's going to take and put more water in that area, which is going to take and cost us more money. We've had it done twice now, our crawl space, because they can't maintain it. And it's hard. I mean, it takes my heart away because I had to struggle to pay my mortgage because of what I had to take and had to fix it. And if you guys allow this to happen, it's going to be devastating to Bay City. Because I don't care how they've made their drain fields, it's not going to stop that water from coming in. That's all I got to say.
Any other?
You have a Zoom comment.
Zoom. We have a Zoom.
We have Grace who would like to make public comments. So Grace, you can unmute your mic, please.
Good morning, everybody.
What is Grace's name?
Grace, could you introduce yourself?
Grace San Marco.
Spell the last
Grace
name.
San Marco.
Marco.
You want to spell it?
SAMMARCO.
Thank you. So the comment I would like to make, I'd like to bring to the commissioner's attention that I am the representative of Living Water Lutheran Church that owned the property and sold it to the developer. Prior to even engaging with the developer, we offered the property to Bay City. Bay City wanted the church to pay to put in a pool, to pave Stafford Road for them, and to build a clubhouse for them as terms of you know, taking over the property from us. And it was just ridiculous. So basically, Bay City, they've made valid points, however, they are just totally opposed to having any additional homes put in there. When we said we didn't want to, you know, we couldn't afford to put the pool and whatnot, why did they work with Landbridge to develop it? Landbridge did negotiate with Bay City. I was part of that meeting. And they refused. We told them it would be to their benefit. They would have additional residents in the homeowners association, and it would make life a lot easier. They adamantly did not want the property developed because that's their private dumping ground. Now, when Landbridge went in and did some clearing, they had the right to clear, and they cleared out appliances, they cleared out trash. So, you know, and I canvassed the neighborhood. And the reason they don't want development is because they put their fall leaves there, they put their yard debris, their kids playing there. So it's not even so much as it's a personal vendetta. They don't want that property developed. And that's all I want to share.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, we're not.
No, you gave it up, sorry. All right, we're going to take a 10-minute recess.
No, we're not going to get into back and forth.
The only thing I would-
She said.
The only thing I would like to do,
Hold on. Everybody's had their
Just call
chance.
for a recess.
Right.
Excuse me, let's get back in session, please. Okay, the meeting's back in session. We have one other speaker, Mary Ralston. Can you please come forward? Introduce yourself. Can you pull your mask down so we can hear you?
So sorry. Hi.
Introduce yourself.
Mary Ralston, Bay City. I live on Bayside Drive.
Okay.
There are a number of things that have been said this morning that may not be true. I was on the board back in 2002 through 2006, and I'm not familiar with that lady who was talking, who was representing Living Waters. I was over on Stafford and Victoria and Chesapeake, where Stafford goes between the two, yesterday. And there were a lot of children, more than 9, that I saw. Kids were coming home on the bus. The parents were walking down to meet them. And that's a grave concern. One of the things with regard to that particular road, being Stafford, is it has always been maintained by Bay City funds, not by the county. And it's disconcerting that they don't think it would add to traffic in that area, and it certainly would. There's greater than 10 minutes with regard to backup for people trying to get onto Route 8 from Bay City Road, plus the traffic that's backing up who try to get onto Route 8 from Irene. I'm a little perplexed by some of the arguments I've heard from that side. I just wanted to make that, short and let you know. There's also, and one gentleman mentioned it over about McKay and the backup for the water. There's a gentleman who lives right at the corner of Chesapeake and Stafford. He was one of the original property owners at that particular time. And before the other houses were built down on Chesapeake, the water drainage coming from the ditch would come down and go behind his property and was supposed to have been finished off by the county so it drained back into the bay. They didn't finish it off, but it happened to build up in the backyard where he was and eventually would go, and be retained by the grade. When they started building the houses on the other side of him, they didn't do anything to make sure that that backup was going to be taken down to the bay, and it is brought and continues to back up behind his house, in his property, not only on the grade, but into the property itself. He was unable to be here today, but I did bring a letter, and it also has pictures with it. I'll turn it over to that gentleman.
Okay.
And this is really discouraging for him.
Okay, your time's up.
All right. I
All right,
appreciate it.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
That's the end of public comment. I would like to have Mr. Todd Bond, if he's here. Did he go out? How does he disappear like that?
No, he's here.
I thought you went out on us again. No. Can you, you were the Director of Public Works, and now you're the County Administrator. Can you please introduce yourself and tell us
Sure,
your
Madam
side
Chair.
of the story?
Thank you for allowing me to testify here this morning. I'm Todd Mon, the the County Administrator, former Public Works Director for Queen Anne's County.
Okay, can you shed some light on this situation?
Well, as you've all heard today, this has been a very long and drawn-out situation with this particular subdivision, probably now going on 20 years or so. And it all boils down, I think, at this point to whether or not they have access to Victoria Drive. I think it was mentioned earlier that they had a proposed access to Route 8, which was not desirable either from a safety standpoint at that particular location, and they were looking at other opportunities to access this particular property, which is in the growth area and basically enveloped by the community of Bay City. So we put public water and sewer in the community in the mid-1990s, and then following that we did all the road improvements to the remaining private roads, except a few. As one of the individuals testified, we did not improve Stafford, and I believe there was 2 other smaller ones in the northern part that they wanted to leave private. The remaining roads were improved and upgraded to county road standards. And in particular on Victoria, we improved it, around the curve there, where it ties into Stafford, and there's public utilities in both Victoria and Stafford. It's kind of hard to see on the aerial, but if you sort of project the right-of-way line, the 50-foot wide right-of-way lines of Victoria straight ahead to the southwest, that would provide the adjacency there on the property that was acquired from the play checks to get the 50-foot access width needed to extend Victoria on through into that property as an alternative means to access that land. And I will also say, if you look in and around the entire subdivision plat of Bay City, there are a number of locations like this where they have adjacent lands, open lands, vacant lands that have paper streets that were left purposefully so they could be extended to further develop adjacent properties at some point in the future for economic purposes. So that's one may conclude that that was done purposely for that motive. So we concluded that that Victoria did dead end right-of-way wise at the Playcheck property, and that it could be extended through onto that land.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there
It
any
should-
questions?
It should be said that
Doug.
Public Works' decision was not made in a vacuum. Mr. Blitzer was kind enough to include in his 3-ring binder a copy of my letter of November 8th, 2016, so it was almost 5 years ago. And this is the letter to which I referred earlier. I believe that the county attorney was also consulted, Patrick Thompson, on this issue. Look, I think my opinion is correct. I believe that Pat Thompson, the county attorney, concurred with it. Mr. Mon concurred with it. We could all be wrong, and Mr. Blitzer could be right. My guess is that whatever happens with this application is going to see a life beyond the Planning Commission, and that issue will be ultimately decided by someone other than us. But I think I stand by my opinion in the 2016 letter.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions from or comments from the commissioners?
Mr. Mond, the flooding and the culverts being in disrepair or these issues, can you shed any light on that?
Well, I'll do my best on that. As we all know, these old subdivisions that were platted back in the 50s and 60s without any infrastructure improvements, roads were all originally built by the homeowners. There was no stormwater management, no drainage. We've all had to live with those for all these years, and we're still picking up a lot of those pieces. We're now extending sewer down Route 8. And we have similar issues in those communities as well. But I will say, over the years, when we've come in and done the road improvement projects, we've done numerous drainage improvements. We've worked with homeowners to provide systems on their properties. But the issue is that a lot of these areas we don't have rights of ways to maintain some of these drainage ways. We've acquired some where we can. But we have done a lot of work in these communities to avoid flooding problems from the additional homes that were built once the water and sewer was extended to these communities, which was obviously very needed because of the public health concerns, for the septic systems that were there previously. So, we will continue to make those improvements where we can. We can certainly help with that as time goes forward. We have a very vigorous maintenance program. Drainage is always a very important piece of that for our roads division. We have done a few projects in Bay City, and we can continue to look at doing more of those where we have problems. So as long as they're reported to us, we will evaluate those and see what we can do to improve the situations.
It would be good if we could improve their situation now, if they're having failures. It would be good if the county could get in there and
Yes, I heard some of the testimony, and I made some notes for myself and for our Public Works Department, and I will be following up with them on those at those couple locations. And I'd also add that I hadn't heard about the long backups at the intersection there at Bay City Road, but certainly we can reach out to our colleagues at State Highway and ask them to look at the light timing there at Bay City Road to see if that can be adjusted for a longer green time during peak hours in the morning to allow that traffic to clear so that the backups aren't, multiple light cycles there at Route 8, which I will certainly do that.
that'd be great. Thank you.
A quick question. Sir. The one gentleman came up and mentioned that his property could potentially be landlocked. He's got a driveway that comes down Victorian at Stafford, and he was saying that if the development occurs, he would become landlocked or something. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't look like the driveway gets landlocked.
I don't know where that comes from.
If I'm not mistaken, that's the lot right there on the corner, map 56, lot 12. Yeah, that, I would not agree with that. The Victoria Drive is public all the way to the, where it intersects the, the Playcheck property, and it's clearly within that right of way.
And the development would no way lock him,
No, sir, it would not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Can I get a resolution?
I'd like to say something before you open it up, Madam Chair.
Sure.
Is that we've heard very detailed descriptions of sewer allocation and capacity at the sewage treatment plant, and here we are looking to add load to that, or being asked to consider that. It seems a bit irresponsible to me.
Actually, allocation's already been granted to this.
I understand that.
Okay.
That doesn't mean it can go, it doesn't mean it has to.
Well, that's within the discretion of the sanitary district, and the county commissioners sit as the sanitary district, and they granted allocation to this project.
Project has not been approved yet.
Well, that would not have required an amendment because it's not 5,000 gallons a day,
Correct.
right?
And I'll also add that this project has been, if you want to say, on the books on our list for, over 15 years, probably closer to 20 years. And we are looking at some capacity constraints at this point in time, but this one has been, shall we say,
I have a question for Mr. Drummond. Is there anything that can be done in period or in a timely manner to clarify the provenance of Victoria Drive?
I think all the work that could be done has been done by both those who are of the opinion that Victoria Drive extends to the property line, and those who believe that Victoria Drive dead ends at what they believe to be the extension of Stafford Road, which would come down to the front of lots 1 and 2, Block I. There we have a difference of opinion, and there's nothing, I'm afraid, that's going to clear that. There's nothing further to be done absent some court being asked to render a judgment regarding it.
Would it be like squatters' rights? If you're maintaining, if you're using that property all the time?
Okay.
Which
So
they're doing it by maintaining it?
They being whom?
County?
Yeah.
They maintain it?
So I certainly agree with Mr. Blitzer that my memory is that there's no deed of dedication for this section of Victoria Drive, by which the county became the fee simple owner of the dirt below the asphalt. I don't recall that there's such a deed. I think I agree with him on that. That doesn't mean, however, that the county's actions over since public water and sewer went in Bay City have not.
When was that?
90s?
It was in the 90s. Yep.
So probably
Did
close
not
to 20
create
years.
a
Or 25 years.
essentially an easement to the general public that makes it a quote unquote public road. There, frankly, are many roads, many public roads in this county and virtually every other county in the country that you would look for a deed to the county. You would look in vain for a deed to the county. Most county roads aren't owned by the county, or I should say the dirt below the asphalt. But they are nevertheless public. That is to say that the owner of the dirt, which is oftentimes property owners on either side, couldn't put up a barrier preventing the public from using the road because of public maintenance, public use. That's why I asked earlier, who plows the snow? And that's the basis for the opinion of on the side of saying the Victoria Road dead ends at the property is that it doesn't really matter who owns the dirt. It's open to the public and the public can't be denied the use of it. That public obviously includes residents of Bay City. It includes all of us that can drive down Victoria Drive without being told we can't. And at least in our opinion, it includes those that might purchase land in this proposed subdivision. Mr. Blitzer and his client have a different point of view. I think on balance ours is the one likely to prevail. Stafford Road is not of the same status. And if there's concern about people who do not own property in Bay City using Stafford Road, I should think putting up some private road signs and Bay City property owners only, and consulting with the Sheriff's Department should solve that problem.
Plowing the snow doesn't decide ownership.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I have a question for the applicant.
Okay.
Have you approached State Highway with that 15-foot easement, and what comments did they have? Were they going to make it a right-in, right-out? Did they flat out deny any entry off the...
Back years ago, Mr. Reese, when we were, another owner of the property was planning the subdivision, the State Highway was approached. And because of it being on the curve of Route 8, they said that it would not be safe unless you had an accel and a decel lane, which would then go across the front of the American Legion, across the front of the other properties. And even then, it's not ideal to have an accel and decel turning lane on a Route 8, on a curve. We did not pursue it, and the current owner has not pursued it. The church, when they were looking into possible subdivision, they decided not to pursue it because probably somewhere between a third and a half of the county roads in Queen Anne's County, and Mr. Mon can verify this, there's no deeds to it. You just don't have deeds. And the county maintains Stafford. The testimony was we were talking.
They don't maintain Stafford.
It maintains Victoria, excuse me.
Right.
And one of the things, the testimony was that they were talking about our roads. They're not Bay City roads. The county taxpayers of Queen Anne's County have paid for the tar and chipping of those roads, have paid for the continual, every 3 to 5 years, the maintenance on those roads, for the snow plowing on those roads. And even the owner of Lot 1 got up there and testified, and you can look, his driveway comes off the end of Victoria. And what is his address when he testified? 703 Victoria Drive. I mean, you know.
Please,
Okay,
people, you've
no.
had your opportunity.
No,
He's-
please.
He's
No, excuse me.
He's responding to a question from the Planning Commission.
He should be given 3 minutes.
I'm sorry, excuse me. We do not act like we're in grade school.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Reese?
It does, thank you. Has your client, we've heard lots of concerns about the additional traffic at that intersection. Are you aware of any recent traffic studies that have evaluated the Bay City and/or Irene intersections at Route 8?
No, first thing, this would be under the threshold that they would do something like that. But also, I think, if you do a traffic study, the point where the problem is Route 8 and any of the entranceways like into Bay City Drive, and you've already got a traffic control device out there. So I think Mr. Mon hit it right on the head, is that if there is a problem with traffic, and if it's during peak, particularly now that school started back up, I can see it. We see it in Graysonville and all the other towns. If you got a traffic light out there, talk to the state highway, get them to reset the traffic light so you allow better access out onto Route 8. That seems to make sense, and it's going to resolve a lot of the problem.
Thank you.
We're going to have to clear the room if we can't get order. Okay, so moving right along. Are we going to have a resolution today?
Madam Chair, you need a motion, is that what we need to?
Yes.
Resolution or resolved that the Planning Commission regarding the request by Landbridge LLC for proposed subdivision identified as Plastics Place to be administratively transfer 1.165 acres from tax map 56 parcel 300 to parcel 38 and to create 10 new residential lots utilizing the large lot subdivision technique as more particularly described in the Department of Planning and Zoning file 20-020160, hereby finds this subdivision to be consistent with the goals and objective of the Queen Anne's County zoning and subdivision regulations and the 2010 comprehensive plan. Hereby grants preliminary subdivision approval for the following conditions. The sewer allocation deposit of $15,785 shall be paid prior to receiving conditional final approval from the Planning Commission. And 2, any remaining edits and documents required by Public Works, Department of Public Works and/or the Department of Planning and Zoning be reviewed and approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? All right, let's call for the question. Any, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I need hands raised. 1, 2.
What'd you ask?
Opposed.
Okay. 2, 3, 4. 4 in favor? So moved.
Opposed.
Right, I didn't count you as in favor. Did you get it, Sharon? Right.
sure we'll hear about that some more.
All right, we'll take a 5-minute break. We have to do a revote because there's a difference of opinion on what the numbers were. So we'll do a voice vote. Can we reread the?
Can we reread it?
Yeah, can you redo it? Mr. Ebersberger? My sister-in-law was just in an accident.
Madam Chair, be resolved that the Planning Commission regarding the request by Landbridge LLC for proposed subdivision identified as Plastics Place to administratively transfer 1.165 acres from tax map 56 parcel 300 to parcel 38 and to create 10 new residential lots utilizing the large lot subdivision technique as more particularly described in the Department of Planning and Zoning file number 20-02-0160, hereby finds this subdivision to be consistent with the goals and objectives of Queen Anne's County zoning and subdivision regulations and the 2010 comprehensive plan, and hereby grants preliminary subdivision approval with the following conditions. The sewer allocation deposit of $15,785 shall be paid prior to receiving additional final approval from the Planning Commission. Any remaining edits and/or documents required by the Department of Public Works and/or the Department of Planning and Zoning be reviewed and approved.
So we're clear, this is not a new vote. This is for us to accurately take down what the prior vote was, because apparently the scribes over here may have misunderstood who was voting for what. So this is not a new motion. This is not a revote. Nobody's changing their minds. We just need to be clear about who voted in what manner, and then it may require a seventh vote.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a voice vote. Mr. Reese?
Opposed.
Mr. Jackson?
Opposed.
Mrs. Diotis?
Yes, approve.
Mr. Ebersberger?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Baker? Mr. Lee?
Opposed.
That means we have 3 and 3. That means I have to vote this time. And I'm going to say opposed.
Right now, it would be useful for, not only useful, but required in light of that vote, to explain the reasons for those votes so that we have a record for what is almost certainly going to be an appeal. So if we could have from you all, please, the basis for the factual and or perhaps even your legal, if that's the right word, basis for your votes.
Personally, my reasoning is the overwhelming opposition, the water problems that have not been resolved, and the traffic flow problem that they currently have. Mr. Reese?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I still have concerns regarding, although I respect Mr. Drummond's opinion, in my opinion, I believe that the Stafford Road intersection with Victoria may exceed into that map 56 parcel 390 lot 12. Additionally, I have concerns with the parcel 300 lot 3 as it appears that that lot may actually extend in front of lot 12. So lot 12 may actually be encroaching upon lot 3 as their driveway based off the photographs and evidence that we've seen based off the evidence. So I believe that there may be some overlying zoning concerns that need to be addressed and worked out. Additionally, when the applicant comes back, which I'm sure they will, I'd like to know some more information from the applicant as it pertains to what happened with MDE and their clearing 4 or 5 years ago, and what the status of that is from the Office of the Zoning Administrator. So in addition to the neighborhood concerns, those were my reasons for the opposition vote.
Okay, Mr. Jackson?
I kind of concur with yours. The traffic issue, the drainage issue, it's obviously going to cause more drainage problems into the existing community. And I just think that needs to be addressed without affecting those negatively. So I have concerns with that.
Ms. Diotis?
I voted yes. After quite a bit of thought, I had written down several things when the residents were testifying. Mr. Riley testified that he would be landlocked. I'm satisfied that would not be the case since his address is on Victoria Drive. I had concerns about the Victoria Drive provenance. Again, I'm satisfied that it is a public road, and Mr. Drummond pointed out there are many roads in the county that aren't specifically deeded to the county. I also had concerns about traffic. We all here are Queen Anne's County residents and experience traffic wherever we live. And I think that could probably be mitigated, as Mr. Mon indicated, with some timing issues and resolution at the traffic light there. So I am also have confidence that the materials presented to us by the planning and zoning staff, specifically that the subdivision is consistent with goals and objectives of the Queen Anne's County zoning and subdivision regulation and the 2010 comprehensive plan. So that is the reason for my vote.
Good. Okay. Mr. Lee?
In addition to what's already been stated, most prominently is the overwhelming public opposition to this from the neighborhood. It certainly seems from my chair that this is being squeezed into a space maybe that isn't appropriate for this type of development, with lot line adjustments and utility easements and drainage easements, sewer allocation concerns looking further down the horizon, as well as environmental impacts to the non-tidal wetlands moving forward.
Mr. Baker?
I voted to approve because I believe the property owner has rights and he's exercised his rights, follow the rules.
Okay, and Mr. Ebersberger?
I concur with, Kathy's observations. I believe that the county, department brought it to us. We listened. We've heard some issues. I think the broader issue for the community that borders it are not going to be negatively impacted by this 10-lot subdivision. I think they've got a major issue, separate and distinct. And I just don't think this ownership situation is going to be resolved other than, as Mr. Drummond said, in a different venue than ours. So as far as the intersection at Stafford and Victoria. And I think he has the right to go and figure that out and bring it back to us.
Thank you. Sharon, you got it all? Okay.
Yeah.
Are you satisfied? We gave you
Yes,
enough
thank you very much.
backup? Okay. All right, moving on right along. Comprehensive plan update.
Good morning. My name is Lauren Good, and I am a consultant with Wallace Montgomery. We've been working on the comprehensive plan for the past several months. Been before you pretty frequently lately, and this morning's discussion is focused on the continuation of the comprehensive rezoning request, land use conversations, and recommendations that were started at the August Planning Commission meeting. There were a number of applications that ended up needing to be tabled, two due to a quorum issue, and two because of the request for some additional information.
I'm just sitting aside Lauren this morning, where Ray Moravec is usually sitting. I think he's joined us on the Zoom platform, just to offer some support for the Planning Commission, as you may have questions about the technical committee's recommendations.
So we will just jump right in. Because there are only 4 of these that we are going to be reviewing this morning, we are looking at them in sequential order, as opposed to how we did it by geographic area in August. So the first request that we are discussing this morning is that of CRR 28, which is on Old Dominion Road in Chester. This was one where the item for discussion is really based on the detailed future land use map, and that currently shows the detailed future land use as low density residential. So these are the 4 images that you've seen previously, and then we provided a close-up view of the detailed future land use map so that you could see that much clearer. All the information on the left side of the screen is the same between the 2 slides.
Okay, that, does Mr. Schultz want to come up and talk? Is he still here? No, sir?
I'm here in, I guess, 2 capacities. Jody Schultz, Chester. One is for the, one is as a president of the fire department. One is for, is it CRR 28 with the star on it? That's a parcel we have that was donated to us by Miss Catherine Kerwin years ago for use of, for a substation. And we had purchased property and built our new firehouse. We really don't have need for a substation at this point. So our intent is to try to get that rezone consistent with the neighborhood. I think the whole neighborhood up the road is NC8. Where I can see that now.
Which is the lower left image.
Yeah, I think up from Route 18 all the way down is pretty consistently NC8. Currently, that property is zoned SE, suburban estate. We're not sure what, Aaron, we're going to be doing with the property. I think what we'd like to do is provide some kind of housing, perhaps for our members, or, you know, work with some kind of an organization. Ms. Kerwin was good enough to give us that property in good faith for our fire department. So I think we in turn want to do some good with that property. You know, I've been in some rough discussions with some of the groups that build homes for soldiers and such. So we're not sure at the end of the day what we're going to do with it, but it'll be in some capacity, some working with a group like that, or combining maybe some rental units or something for our members in some capacity. But our intent is no way to flip that property and sell it for a profit, because that property in good faith was given to us for, public use per se. So we're requesting that, I think, be zoned, changed into NC8, which would allow a lot of what I think I just described. The next parcel down is, what is that, 29?
Oh, we're not discussing 29 right yet.
We're not? Okay.
No.
You can stay put. Talk about that one next if you want.
So
And
on
if you have any
28
questions about that,
28, according to the staff report, that it's opposed because it would not achieve greater density with the change.
Correct. So the land use change is consistent, and the technical committee found that consistency. However, the underlining critical area zoning as it sits holds a density of 1 dwelling unit per 20 acres. So the required land use change would not be consistent with the critical area designation. So they could not achieve the requested density, even though it's a good plan, and bringing that parcel in line with the surrounding zoning is certainly appropriate. This parcel is a larger parcel, and when the critical area was mapped, it was given an RCA designation and not a designation basically for residential development.
Is it my turn? So, I can't disagree with any of that. I'm just, to be consistent with the zoning on that road, why any of that property was ever zoned NC1 is beyond me, because none of those parcels are an acre. NC1 is an acre. I call it a mapping error, or I don't know how it got missed. But, just to be consistent with the road, the critical area, of course, is another issue. Are the properties north of that, are they LDA or?
Yes, yes.
Right. So, the opportunity to get growth allocation to accomplish that is there. But if it's not zoned, the first step would be to zone it consistent with the zoning, which would be NC8. The critical area growth allocation would just be another step you'd have to go through. But if it remains that zoning, you just never really get to step 2. So again, I don't own the rest of those properties. That property there is owned by my son, but consistency should really have all those I don't represent those other properties, but consistency, I think, is what you always strive for. And NC1 is just, I just don't even know how it got to be NC1 to start with.
So that's already in NC1, correct?
Correct. No, the existing zoning.
Say yes, and he says
Wait a
no,
minute,
so I'm confused.
The existing zoning, I'm sorry, is suburban estate, no. The existing zoning is suburban estate. He's requesting NC8.
Are we talking about the other lot?
You've jumped down, I'm sorry,
28.
he jumped down to 29.
Oh, I danced because it's my time. I'm sorry.
It's still your time for
Okay.
28.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Everything I said was in reference to 29. I thought we.
All right,
moved
let's
that.
take a vote on
Sorry.
28. Are there any questions?
When you talk about housing for some of your volunteers and so forth, are you talking about permanent housing, or are you talking about bunks type housing for those who may be covering shifts, or?
I don't think we're talking about permanent housing, because our members, tend to, in some formats, come and go. So I don't, in my opinion, would be not to, sell off something to a member and then have that member move on, and then have that member sell that at a profit to somebody that's not a fire department member. So our intent would be to always control that in some format and not just have it a leapfrog and we sell it affordable to a member, and then he, in a good market, sell it, and then the intent of what we were trying to do kind of get lost in the shuffle. But again, our intent is not in any way, shape, or form to take that property, upzone it, and sell it. to a developer or anybody else for profit. Our intent to upzone that is to benefit our fire department or the community in ways that I described. And if that's a restriction on that, you know, so be it, if that's needed.
Just to clarify though, the personal situation is compelling, but once your zoning changes, there's really no legal process in place that would put any restrictions, and that's a laudable goal. But this is a land use decision and not a decision based on a personal use. And so that's why you have to look at your consistency in terms of real-time use and real-time classifications.
Amy's right about that, because to say, we'll rezone your property if you only do A, B, and C, and not D, E, and F, it's known as contract zoning, which is against public policy and will be immediately rejected by a court.
I'd just like to have clarification of why, with all these other, I assume the ones above are NC ones?
No, everything.
They're NC 8.
Okay, NC 8s, which is 8 parcels per acre?
No, 8,000 square foot minimum lot size.
Okay, so if it's 8,000 square foot minimum, why do we go all the way up the road and below it, all the way down the road with a different, why is this one parcel in the middle? I'd like to have clarification for the,
Because
for the commission.
because it's undeveloped. If you can look at the top left-hand photograph, you'll see it's a farm field.
Right, so what happened during original zoning, NC 8 stopped at this transition. And that lot was platted, and it's a larger lot, and it's surrounded by agricultural land. So it's kind of the end of that residential, more intense development zone. So it's a transitional zoning. You have ag around it. You have a suburban estate zoning on this one parcel, because that is more akin to a smaller lot that is in the ag zone. And then when the residential zoning picks back up again, it's back to an NC 1.
would the fire department be allowed to do an auxiliary there?
SC, it probably, maybe as an institutional use, I'd have to look, but yeah, probably as an institutional use or a public service use.
Yeah, so I just verified in the code, an institutional residential use would be allowed within the SE as a permitted use, which seems like it would meet the needs based off of what you currently described. However, I also agree that the SE designation in that particular section it's not consistent on that side of the road. So.
When did Ms. Kerwin, when did the fire department get it from her estate? Or did she do it before she died?
Yes, it was prior to her passing, so we've had that property for, I don't know, 20 years, maybe?
Was it since the last comp update? Or
It was
before?
that.
It was before that, but we had, I think we were still in a state of flux with where our new fire station was gonna go, where we're gonna keep our existing station, put a substation here, which at the time made a lot of sense. But our decision was, when we were able to buy the property we have, that it's hard enough sometimes to get people to come to one station. If we had two, you know, the way our volunteers do things, who goes where, at what call sometimes. So we just felt it was best for us to, and Mr. Reese been in our station in the past, so he's well aware of some of these discussions we had. So we just feel like this is an opportunity piece. This is the opportunity to address, you know, what we're trying to do. And, you know, that's really kind of why.
And you say that the code would give us that, right, Jeff?
Well, under the SE use, according to Title 18, it allows for a industrial, or, I'm sorry, how was it? Institutional residential.
It actually allows for nonprofit and for-profit institution in the SC district.
You can still do what you want to do.
So look under N and F, but it took me a while to figure that out.
Right.
If we wanted to do a project that had some for our members and some for a Wounded Warriors project, which would have to be at that point, I think, an arm's length transaction, Would we be able to do that as well?
You couldn't
I
subdivide
think
this
you have
lot.
to get that from a lawyer, not from us.
Yeah, well, you can't subdivide this lot, so we can answer that question. He doesn't
Couldn't
have,
do it as long as it's SE.
Not at SE, you couldn't.
well, more so, yeah, there's that, but there's also the underlining RCA designation through critical area.
Yeah.
So the density is 1 per 20 for this lot, so it could not subdivide.
Okay, any other questions or comments
Well,
from the
just
commission?
to speak to what Mr. Reese said, that was the reason for my question about, would this be like like, I didn't mean to say bunker, I meant bunk-style housing for volunteers, which certainly if wounded warriors were going to be part of the volunteer fire department, you know, that would include them as well. So that was the reason for my question on that. And then what does SE allow specifically? I totally get what you mean from there, and so that's why I asked that question.
Most SE properties don't have sewer or water allocation as well, so there's another kind of reason to get rid of the SE designation on that. But, I mean, we'll live with whatever you guys want. It was an opportunity for us and trying to stay in.
What
Ms.
is
Kerwin's
sort of
intentions.
peculiar, though, would be to leave a small gap. I mean, you know, we've seen,
I think the intent of that, Mr. Drummond, was so they could access the field there,
okay, well,
in case that ever got, you know.
I mean,
something
if
done.
you want essentially the west side of Dominion Road to be NC8, it should be all the way down.
I don't disagree. It's consistent, and it's not that it might create one more lot or two maybe, but it's consistent. Right now, it's non-conforming. No matter how you look at it, it's non-conforming. And has been non-conforming.
I mean, it
since
is odd,
day one.
and we're, you know, I suppose one could argue if you make it NC1 or 8, it's infill, I don't know.
Not for the critical area underlining zoning.
I get that.
The technical committee would have recommended favorably.
And maybe if the fire department comes in with something along the lines that Jody has recommended, the commissioners may be favorably disposed to growth allocation, even though it doesn't meet all the other criteria for growth allocation, including 20 acres and adjacency and all that. I mean, there's major hurdles for growth allocation.
And currently, it's RCA, which again presents, I mean, even with the other things that you had said we could do, being RCA, you're really limited in that perspective. So it's a journey no matter what we do, but, you know, you gotta start somewhere, and that's kind of what we're thinking. So whatever you decide is, you know, we'll live with. We're not argumentative. We try not to be. Thank you.
Any more comments or questions from the commission? All right, let's call for the question. Do we maintain the technical committee's recommendation to oppose the change? Could not achieve greater density with change, 20-acre requirement for RCA. All in favor?
Can I just be clear that you're voting that you concur or oppose with their
We concur
opposition?
we concur with the recommendation of the technical committee.
Thank you.
So that's your motion?
Yes.
Second.
Wait a minute now, let's be clear. Concur with the recommendation, which would be not to approve the requested change.
Exactly.
Okay, let's be clear about what we're doing here.
And I second it.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Oops.
Okay, how many opposed? Okay, let's go for an individual
Can you just,
vote.
raise your hand if you're in favor, please?
3, 4,
Thank you.
and opposed to the motion.
The opposition vote would be to make it an actual MCA.
For this change.
Yes, for the change.
For the change. 3, okay, 4 to 3. Which
Was that a
means,
win or a loss for me?
I think you lost.
Okay. Well, thank you for hearing me anyway.
Okay, now you're on for 29.
can
I think
imagine
you-
how that's going to go.
You already explained it. I don't know if you want to re-explain it, but.
No, saying, I mean, obviously it's not the fire department's property, it's my son's property. And I'm trying to get my other son in the neighborhood, and he, when he purchased a lot, there was we looked at the NC8 thing and thought, well, maybe there's an opportunity to, I don't want to regurgitate what I said before, but this is not the fire department's.
Well, the technical committee said that they needed more information to know whether it was consistent with the critical area program.
We have that
Or growth
information.
allocation needs,
Yeah.
you do.
They're an
So tell
they're-
us what it is.
They're an LDA, and so the technical committee would not oppose the land use designation change.
Would not oppose.
Would not oppose. Would
Okay.
support.
Well, let's do it. We would support the change.
Want to take that whole block then and make it NC8?
This is our application.
And it's LDA, which helps.
Right, then that was the reason. The land use is consistent. It's residential land use. That's what he's asked for in both cases. It was the underlining critical area zoning that produced an unfavorable recommendation for case 28, but for 29, it is a limited development area, so that same density restriction isn't applicable. So this would be appropriate, but more appropriate if we looked at it comprehensively. But that is something that when we update the land use, the zoning code and the zoning maps, as a result of this decision, we could revisit that more comprehensively later. If we would make a staff note about this case and bring it back up when we, in a couple years, look at the zoning code and our comprehensive rezoning.
When you said this case, you mean, which number are you talking about?
29.
29.
In other words, would the other 4 lots south of that, would it make sense to make them all NC8? That has not been requested now, but when you look at a comprehensive rezoning of the entire county, you may consider whether or not that little block of yellow there should be NC8 entirely. But the other property owners haven't asked for that now.
So could you restate what the technical committee recommendation is that they would be?
Yes, I can. The technical committee found that the land use request is consistent and that the underlining critical area designation is a limited development area. Therefore, there is no restriction in regard to the density as it relates to the critical area program. So the technical committee would support this request overall.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
In favor of what?
No, wait,
Gonna make
what?
that a motion.
Oh,
Let's get a motion. I thought we just had the motion. I'm
So
sorry.
she was just reiterating what the technical committee.
Okay, so the
So now
motion
you
would
have to
be,
say
the
you
motion
agree or
would be to accept the recommendation of the technical committee. Once again, I guess I have to say it each
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, second.
Okay, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So be it. What's the next one?
One win and one loss. So thank you very much.
The next request is CRR 32, which is 328 Cherry Lane in Queenstown. This one, for the request to be consistent, would require a change to the comprehensive plan land use to the,
Can I interrupt? I think Teddy Baker, this is his. He ought to recuse himself before we get into this.
I mean, I leave.
Yes.
You think he would be intimidating?
Someone call me when it's time to come back.
we won't forget you.
This, again, for the request to be consistent with the draft plan, the changes would need to have the comprehensive plan land use change to the rural business employment area and the detailed future land use to the commercial mixed use. And then we also have the detailed land use detail here for you to see. And the technical committee's discussion and recommendations really centered on the fact that it wasn't consistent with the existing Queenstown comprehensive plan, and that staff recommends supporting the town's position on this particular item. Just on that note, we have shared drafts of various information with the towns and are anticipating some additional feedback as we revise the drafts for your review in October.
For clarity, Ms. Murdoch, this is in the town of Queenstown, or it is not?
It is not. It is in the town of Queenstown's growth area.
Okay. So it's not technically in town as we speak?
Correct.
Thank you.
But we just are collaborative and want to be consistent with all incorporated town comp plans.
Important.
And has the town weighed in on this particular issue?
Not as of this time.
Have they been asked to weigh in on it?
We have submitted draft information to them. We did have a meeting with the Council of Governments last night, and some additional information is pending from the various towns to be incorporated into the plan, but we have not specifically received comment on this particular item.
In the absence of their verbal response, the technical committee is beholden to their standing comprehensive plan. I don't know if Mr. Foster's reached out to the town about this matter.
No, we in the process of doing.
Mr. Foster, did you want to?
Yes, I've prepared for you, first thing, just a little quick summary. And if we look, the interesting thing, if you look at Exhibit 1, this is a 10-acre parcel of land that, ironically, it's zoned agricultural. But if you look at the property across Route 301, that farm, this was originally part of the McClement farm that contained several hundred acres. If you look at my Exhibit 2, that is a copy of the actual 1964 zoning map, which shows that the property, including this 10 acres, and I'm showing how does a 10-acre part get zoned agricultural? Well, it gets zoned agricultural because it was part of a 200-acre farm. In 1952, the state came through and purchased part of the McClement property for Route 301. It severed that property in two. If you look at Exhibit number 3, ironically enough, in 1987, the McClements went back and had the remainder of the farm located on the east side of Route 301, rezoned to suburban residential and suburban estate. If you look at the next Exhibit number 4, it kind of shows you what has happened to that land on the other side of Route 301. It's now a subdivision, and the land around that, I'm pretty sure, is probably designated open space in order to support that subdivision that you see. If you look at Exhibit 5, Exhibit 5 kind of shows you that the 10-acre parcel that was left is comprised of roughly somewhere around 50% of it is a residence and kennel that has been in operation for a number of years. If you look going south and west from where you can see the kennel grounds, the property drops precipitously between 20 and 30 feet, going down towards, actually that used to be the original railroad right-of-way that went back towards Friel Lumber Company. I bring that up because the reason for the request here is that if we really look, I look at it and how do you get a 10-acre parcel of land on Route 301 zoned ag? I mean, it's just, if we forget about anything and went back to our easels to paint what color should this be, would you ever say that a 10-acre parcel with 301 frontage and frontage on Cherry Lane should be zoned agriculture? If you look at the purpose of ag district, it says the ag district's intended to preserve and protect areas of the country that are predominantly in agricultural use. The ag district is characterized by agriculture and related uses. And then if you look down at 18.144, it has those agricultural uses, which are those things that we normally associate with agricultural endeavors, which would be agricultural storage, selling of agricultural implements, etc., all of which really does not apply to this land at all. So when I look at it, and this request is, if we look, and again, let's wipe out, because that agricultural zoning goes back to the McClement Farm and 1964. If we were to wipe all of that out and say, okay, what would be the appropriate zoning for this? I think the applicant's request is justified, because if you look at suburban commercial district, it's intended primarily for a variety of commercial uses and limited light industrial uses in predominantly rural or suburban areas not served by public sewer. Arguably, all of the above apply to this property. Also, it says in that same section, 18.121A, extensive landscaping requirements and other restrictions within the SC district are intended to mitigate commercial uses impacts and preserve surrounding rural or suburban character. Again, wiping the slate clean, if we were going back and starting with zoning of property, we know why it was zoned agriculture. The whole farm's been rezoned. Now we got this one 10-acre little piece by itself, and when you go back and look at the textual zoning ordinance, I think it rightfully fits into that suburban commercial district zoning. Now let's understand, you've got topographical limitations. You've got the fact that it is not on public sewer, which is what our zoning ordinance says SC designation should be for properties that are not served by public sewer. This is not served by public sewer. The appropriate zoning would seem to be suburban commercial, and the downside to the county I see being zero, because again, you have the ability to mitigate through restrictions and landscaping requirements as set forth in the ordinance. Now let's get on to the Queenstown plan. If you look at my last exhibit there, which I can't see, but if you look at that last exhibit, that is the comp plan for the town of Queenstown. And if you look at it all the way to the northeast, you can look and see in that green, you'll see that subdivision that I just referred to, which is part of the McClement Farm. Go across Route 301, and you'll see the Dudley Farm and Wicks vineyard operations. That is indicated as planned annexation. If you look at the plan for the town of Queenstown, all of the land from the town of Queenstown up to this property, everything that fronts on Route 301, is designated for annexation. Now, why wasn't this property? Well, again, I think it's kind of like, why is it zoned ag? I think it's out of sight, out of mind. And what I've suggested in here, instead, they show it as designated long-range growth. What I propose is do not turn us down. I would like to see you accept the SC zoning. In the meantime, between now and when we get around to you adopting your comp plan and then going back and doing the comprehensive rezoning of the county, during that intervening period of time, we will approach and have reached out to the town of Queenstown to say, look, it doesn't make any sense to designate all of those lands possible annexation and leave out one piece of property, which is this 10 acres. You should put that in that possible annexation also. And then I think county and town are consistent and we can move forward. Any questions?
I have a question for Mr. Drummond, please. If a motion were to be made, and I'm using the wording under section 6 of the applicant's documents, that if a motion was made to conditionally approve a change to suburban commercial zoning district, provided that the town of Queenstown shall include the subject property in the planned annexation district, which it doesn't seem to be, it's entirely different wording, but doesn't take what the technical staff is, that they would like to respect and adhere to Queenstown's comp plan and position. So would it,
Are you asking me
would
if
it be
you
a
can?
proper motion for me to,
Wait a minute. Are you asking if you? Well, first of all, we're not zoning anything right now.
to conditionally approve that change based upon the approval or opinion of the Queenstown?
Conditionally approve the
I'm sorry.
change in the land use map, which is what we're
Yes.
talking about, not
Yes.
the zoning.
Yes.
I just do want to
No,
make
I-
one point of clarification before we get too far down this road. This property is included in the town of Queenstown's growth area, and it is designated for resort residential use. So it is located within the town's projected growth area with a residential use designation. So that was the reason for the technical committee's support of the Queenstown's comprehensive plans growth area map, is that the land use designation specified is not consistent with this request, and further, their comprehensive plan discourages premature subdivision on properties identified in their long-range growth area. So just a point of clarification, this parcel is located within their designated growth area.
But my suggestion is that what you do is allow us to keep this open. I mean, we're the county here, this is land in the county. We should properly, I think, an ag zoning district is just not proper for this piece of property. SC is proper if you go back and look at our textual provisions.
Is it being used as an ag? It's not being used as ag, right?
Well,
Kennel and
the
fields.
lower part of that, it's probably 4 acres in there that they plant in beans or corn. And it's,
Sometimes. It's not planted right now, but.
it's, because of the topography, it's got to be good weather conditions in order to go on in and plant and to harvest that. So it's, and the kennels can occur in the ag district and can occur in the SC district. So if you go to SC, you would not be making anything non-conforming. It would be permissible, and then what we would do is go back to the town and point out to them, I mean, would the county, the town, would anyone want this to be a residential subdivision? I don't think so. And I don't think 10 acres is really enough to support something like that with the topography. So
Let me be clear as I understand the facts. The town's comp plan says what about this area, Amy?
Residential resort, or resort
Resort residential,
Is that all of Callahan and Dudley and this little piece?
Residential resort.
Gave that back.
It just doesn't.
Don't know what resort
But
residential
while
means.
she's looking that up, Mr. Drummond, if you could provide some insight. If the property is left as an ag, and Queenstown decides to annex that property, which I've been on this commission where Queenstown's annexed other properties, they have the right then at that point in time, at the point of annexation, to rezone it. However, there's still a 5-year hold. So as Queenstown annexes that property, then they can change the zoning as they most feel appropriate.
Correct, subject to the 5-year hold by the county.
5-year, right. Thank you.
So I'm unclear about what the town sees in the future for that area to the, I suppose we might say, east.
The entirety, if you're looking at Exhibit 6, there's a large area that is consistently designated for resort residential.
Where does it say that? See that?
It's all of this.
Okay, but we're over here.
Oh my gosh, I was looking right down there.
No, we're over here.
Oh, I'm in the wrong spot. Okay, sorry about that.
What is resort residential?
That's where the golf, Amy was
I was looking-
looking at the map wrong. That's where the golf course is.
This is their long-range growth.
Right,
Long-range
long-range growth, okay. So, what I wouldn't want to do, what would worry me, is if the town's long-range goals would not include, I know this isn't, I'm just making an example, don't jump up and down, would not include another gas station on 301, which SC arguably would permit. Are we setting the town up for a fight if they wish to annex and then change the zoning to if its expectation is residential growth in that direction, and the county has now zoned something SC, is that inconsistent with the town's visions in the future? I don't know what the town hopes to accomplish eventually going east. And it's not clear from that map.
It's really not clear from their plan.
It may not be.
What I'm saying is we can't wait, let's not let Queenstown drive us what we do. Let's look at this property. We're going through a comprehensive rezoning now. We're going through a comprehensive plan adoption. And let's look at this. And do we want a 10-acre parcel on Route 301 being ag? I don't think so.
So Amy, you have to explain to the commission what the technical committee's position was.
The technical committee's position is to honor the town's long-range growth plan. Their long-range growth plan discourages premature subdivision on properties identified in long-range growth. That was the extent of what they identified. I think we erroneously gave them rural residential. I think the technical committee might have gotten one piece right, and then when they looked back down at the map, looked at resort residential is what it looks like happened to me. But in general, without further direct guidance from the town of Queenstown, the technical committee wouldn't recommend a favorable review that looked like it would be in conflict with their desired growth plan.
But how is it in conflict? How is SC in conflict?
Well, because
I think it's fair to say we don't know if it's in conflict yet, because it's not clear whether Queenstown envisions going essentially northeast in a commercial manner rather than a residential manner.
But if we tabled it until we hear from Queenstown and find out what their,
I would be fine with that.
Amy? What's the downside of that?
Timing of this entire process.
Yes, just that.
On this little thing, it's no fatal.
The issue at hand is that the county's current zoning in that vicinity is consistent. It is ag, both to the south and to the north of Cherry Lane, and to the north east of Route 301. So you have a large contiguous block of ag zoning. I take Mr. Foster's points seriously. I get his points that the use right now isn't apparently agriculture. There is some agricultural use that sounds like it's intermittent. But in terms of our standing zoning, to have a request for commercial at that intersection on 301, knowing that this is in a long-range planning area for the town of Queenstown, doesn't put this board in the strongest position to recommend a land use change here. Not that it would be impossible, but it does not.
You said it was consistent that there's ag on both sides, but this map does not show that. It shows it as SR. Yeah, she's saying on that side, she said on both sides. So,
She said to the northeast.
oh, okay.
Clearly there
The
was a
McClement property
subdivision.
is a bit of an outlier. The SR, I've forgotten why that got zoned SR and SE. Kind of have it in my mind that it had to do with being part of what was then a Queenstown comp plan and their goals at the time. That SRSE goes way back in time. And I just don't remember the theory for why what would be the yellow in the bottom of the picture on the bottom left.
So can we do it based on the premise that we do hear from Queenstown? We go ahead and vote on it today and find out what their,
Be up to Amy. I mean, she's got a timeline here.
We have not heard from them to date. So
I apologize.
You know how to turn that thing off?
hey, just took a picture.
I can't see.
I can't see. Don't ask me.
So, I'm sorry, Amy, so has the planning and zoning made a specific request to the town of Queenstown on this specific matter?
Lauren.
We've forwarded overall a lot of information, but we were already planning to follow up on several items with all of the towns later this afternoon. So I guess depending on your, which way you fall on that, this is something that we could either elevate to the top of that list, but I definitely defer to Amy.
We would definitely need to do that if you wanted to table this. I don't know that we can table this. I
don't
think
know that we table it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we go ahead and vote on it, and if we vote to change it.
Okay, and based on their input.
Based on their input.
I think that's probably appropriate. If we take a vote and share that vote with the town of Queenstown, and if they express opposition, there will be a public hearing where we are obviously going to revisit the entire draft, and we can so note that.
I totally agree with
I
that.
like that solution.
So does everybody understand that one?
And also be mindful of potential commercial uses in this location on 301, accessing on 301 and on Cherry Lane. So that is also a part of what your consideration should
And if there's a
take into
commercial use
account.
on 301 here, why can't there be a commercial use on 301 elsewhere?
Where we've already voted at the last meeting where the same land use redesignation was not supported.
That's something that should be left to the, for in this instance, to the town.
But the other property wasn't in Queenstown growth area, right?
No.
Sudlersville.
I'll make
Another gas
So it's-
station.
Can I make a motion, please?
Yes.
I'd like to support staff's recommendation to deny the applicant because it is not consistent with the Queenstown Comprehensive Plan. However, they do note that they would consult with the town and recommend supporting their position in the future.
Recommending supporting the town's position.
Recommend supporting staff's recommendation, TC recommendation to deny the application, to change the zone, rezoning.
So you're recommending to deny the denying.
I'm recommending.
Approve the deny.
He's concurring with the technical committee's recommendation.
Okay, do I have a second? No second. Okay. Can I get another recommendation?
I want to make a motion, go ahead, Jeff. No, you go ahead. I'll let you go ahead and tackle this
Well,
first.
Yeah, actually, if Tom will restate his motion, I will provide a second. For the very reasons that, although we would be changing it here, I believe it's very important to work with our adjacent incorporated cities or towns to be consistent with their comp plans. As we change things, they may not annex it for 5, 10, 15 years, which then means that it still falls under our comp plan, which may allow for additional commercial use. Hotels, apartments, gas stations, truck stops, different things. And in watching the meeting last time, this commission was very consistent in the fact of not wanting those things going up 301 to preserve the integrity. So if Mr. Lee will restate his motion, I will provide a second.
I will re-motion and recommend denying the applicant's request and leave situation as is.
Second.
In layman's terms.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, let's call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is that 2 ayes? Any opposed? 1, 2, 3 opposed, 4 to 2. Okay, Kathy, now you can come out with your recommendation.
Oh, me? Thanks. I was trying to formulate in my mind a motion that would be compatible with what Amy had to say in that I can only say it would be a conditional approval pending, a conditional approval of the land use change recommendation, request, and that condition being the approval of the Queenstown town leadership. Is that, Amy, is that, you said it in different, you said it in different words, but I'm trying to.
No, no. You can't suggest a
not-
motion.
No,
You're representing the applicant.
Yeah, the town doesn't get a veto power. I guess we can consult with them. And
Okay.
I don't see how, and who are you gonna leave the ultimate decision with? Staff? after consulting with the town? I don't think.
I think what she's saying is that we would approve it today based on, them saying that it's okay. If they say that they are adamant that they wanna keep it in where it is, then we say that it's a no-go.
Right.
That's what you were suggesting before, right? That you said we could do.
In that I think there needs to be a distinction based on Queenstown that distinguishes this request from others, from the similar request that was not.
So it is, because this is in the Queenstown growth area.
Okay, I think that should be a part of the motion.
I thought it was plain because it is in the Queenstown growth area.
Well, yes, but I do think that
Okay.
should be called out as a part of this
You
motion
don't
so
have any
that it's
problem with that,
clean.
right?
Because this property is uniquely situated as it is within the long-range planning area in the town of Queenstown's comprehensive plan,
Say it a little slower so Sharon can get it all. And?
the planning commission does not support the technical committee's recommendation and would and does endorse the applicant's land use map request, provided that the town of Queenstown is consulted and does not oppose the land use map change. Is that what you're looking for?
Yes,
Exactly.
thank you.
Do I get a second of that?
Second.
What if there is no action on the part of the town?
And they haven't opposed it.
Okay.
Which then would mean it would stay in its current agricultural use.
Exactly.
No, it would change. No, it would change.
It would change.
Yeah. It forces Queenstown to do something,
Or not do something.
or not.
They don't do anything or say it's okay, then the land use map will change to facilitate the requested commercial zoning. If Queenstown says, hell no, leave it the way it is, then the land use map will not change.
Right.
That's what the intent of what I just said out loud is. If that's what you're looking for, Kathy.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Who seconded that?
I did.
Calling for the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
In favor.
Okay. Public comment.
Did we have anything on CRR 31?
That was withdrawn.
That was withdrawn?
Yeah,
Okay.
that was withdrawn last.
We actually have one more request.
Oh, we have one more?
It's a CRR 35, which is 826.
Mr. Baker.
Oh, yes, we need to get Mr. Baker.
Although he recused himself last
He
time
recused
for
himself
this
last
one.
time because he
So just
shared the
verify.
same
Well, wait,
designation or request.
Well, yeah, but he doesn't know how we voted, so.
he recused
He
himself
recused
last
himself last
time for
month.
this vote. Should he recuse himself
Yes,
again?
I mean, yes. This, because
This is why it
Okay.
was tabled.
Okay,
We didn't have a quorum.
okay.
right,
So, and he should not sit.
right.
Okay. Okay.
So this request involves the overall parcel, which is found on both sides of the highway. So those are indicated in, with the red outline. The rezoning request for the part to the west side is for that to change to suburban commercial, and the portion on the east side that is within the dotted area closest to the that intersection would be for that to change to the light industrial highway service. So we do have some additional maps or exhibits for this one as well. So here is just a blown up, again, the 2010 detailed future land use, which is what we're using as the basis for the current draft. Here you'll see on the west side, that piece is within the agriculture and open space. And then the portion on the eastern side is predominantly designated as a very low density rural residential. We did have a request by staff to just develop one additional map, and this would have been in reference to some of the other applications that you heard last month, but to provide some additional information here. We wanted to highlight the area in yellow, which is that light industrial highway service, the way that it's currently zoned. So that is primarily south of the Centerville area. On this map, the purple circle shows the general location of this request.
I don't think the word primarily is, I think it's only at the 301-213
Thank you.
intersection.
And then the other component of this would be the areas that are shown in red are those that are currently zoned suburban commercial.
Whose is this?
E3?
The total acreage is 183.6. So the request is for about 5.4 acres to be rezoned to suburban commercial, and then about 34.8 to the LIHS.
So what would the LIHS allow them to do?
Variety of uses oriented to providing service to people traveling on highways.
Oh, truck stop, okay.
We did, on the map that's shown, we did provide the intent of both of those zoning districts. So in the upper left corner of this map, there's the intent of both of those. And then along the bottom portion of the map, there is the conditional use standards related to truck stop and travel plazas. And that's taken directly from the code.
I assume Mr. Lewandowski is, it's not, I didn't say it right. Lisnowski.
Lewandowski, that's the guy that was the Trump supporter.
I know.
Morning, but I guess it's afternoon now. My name's Mike Lizanowski. My address is 530 Carter Road, Churchill, Maryland, 21623. We own this parcel here that is in question. And I just have some points I want to go through and then hopefully answer any questions that you may have. The parcel consists of 184 acres, but we're only requesting the zoning change on about 40 of those acres. When we put in the request, we put it in for LIHS, but in the email when we sent out that request, we also said that SI would be fine as well if we couldn't get the LIHS. LIHS was chosen specifically since the zoning states it's for intersections on the Route 301 corridor. The SI would also be acceptable and preferred because this would allow truck stop without the key 301 intersection language that is that the technical committee used to not recommend the change. We've already completed several perks with the Queen Anne's County Health Department and have more than enough septic at that area just for a convenience store or gas station already. If the board were allow the planning change, the planning map zone, I guess it isn't the zoning map, the planning map change, then we would continue on with the health department to see if in fact there is enough septic reserve area to go with the full-blown truck stop as well. Prior to the last comp plan, there were floating zones available for commercial properties along the 301 corridor, which I guess those no longer exist. At the last meeting, there were several groups that come forward in favor of this type of development at the last meeting. The Queen Anne's County Commissioners commissioned an economic development study recently that confirms this type of facility is needed on the 301 corridor. We're asking it at least be considered for the plan change so we could possibly move forward with the zoning request. As far as the wording of the key intersections on the 301 corridor slated for upgrade or safe ingress and egress, as stated in the technical committee's response, I've recently contacted SHA and have been told that the Route 19 and 301 is actually one of the safest intersections on the 301 corridor. From the 301 split, the 5301 split clear to the Delaware line. We at least want the opportunity to have it on the plan, and if SHA determines that safe ingress and egress cannot be obtained from the current setup, we should at least be given the opportunity to upgrade the intersection at our own cost with J-turns or other acceptable methods to meet SHA standards. There are no other convenience stores from Queenstown, the Queenstown Rural Farms, to Middletown, Delaware, which is over a 40-mile stretch of highway without any service for vehicles. The parcel is located within the opportunity zone as well that was submitted to the federal government by the county, indicating that this was an area the county wanted to develop. These decisions by the technical committee should not have been made blindly without having input from the requesting parties at the time. Truck traffic vehicles have nowhere to stop for that 40-mile corridor other than along the side of the road. We do have the rest area that's there in Price. However, that rest area is closed. It's from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. There is a few trucking spots that are available, but no facilities available at all, no bathrooms, nothing like that available at the rest area from 6 to 6. And almost every intersection on the 301 corridor has some type of commercial parcel at the intersections. So, having said that, I'm simply requesting your recommendation that it be added to the plan, just so we can be given a chance to meet the zoning requirements, to request our zoning change. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
You have questions from the committee? We didn't do public comment before we started doing this. And this is on comp plan, public comment. Should we have done that first?
I think you would encourage people who are specifically interested in a application to come forward now.
Yeah, but we have all these people that want to talk.
Were they here for Bay City?
This is all comp plan talk. And this is the only thing we're doing on comp plan today.
All right, well, maybe we should ask if someone had wished to address the Queenstown proposal that was just voted on.
That's a no.
The no.
So what about
this one? I'm sure there's quite a few
Back
people.
to the other two first before we get to this one.
I'm sorry?
Do you want to go back to the other two before we get to this one? If you want to take a pause here to back up.
Jody's. Dominion
Yeah, well,
Road.
let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll discuss what we're gonna do.
Okay.
I didn't think anybody was here on Jody's stuff, but.
Oh, but just to be fair.
What are your thoughts on this?
parcel 28? Or CRR
That's
28?
Dominion Road.
You're talked out, right?
Don't invite them.
Anyone CR 29?
Dominion Road.
Okay,
That's it.
so then,
We were going back to make sure that there was nobody else out here. We've already heard 28 and 29 and voted, so that's what I think Jody.
all right, we're on CRR 35. Is there anyone that wants to speak to that? Which is 826 Robert Station Road, Churchill, right?
Did you want to get staff comments out of the way and then open it up to the public, or vice versa? Do you want to hear Mr. Lesnowski's presentation and then staff?
Well, we heard his presentation.
Did you want to hear the technical committee input and then open it up? Or wait?
I thought we would do the technical committee after we hear the comments.
technical committee recommendations first. Yes.
Oh, do you?
Well, you're in charge, Sharon.
Okay, go ahead, technical committee.
Just to reiterate, and I think that the position is clearly outlined by the committee, but for both of the parcels, the committee opposed the change. In terms of the adequate public facilities guidance principles that you received, which was that two-page document, this type of development would be best served, this type of intensity of development would be best served by public sewer, not required in the code, but best served. But also, adequate public facilities does address adequacy of access, transportation roads. So it was for that reason, and the fact that the surrounding land use and the light industrial highway service intent, and I'll read it out loud for those in the room who can't read the font, which I know I can't when I'm sitting back there, that the light industrial highway service district is intended to provide light industrial highway service, office, and regional commercial uses at key intersections along the 301 corridor from routes 50 to the 301 split north to Kent County. The LIH district is limited to those principal intersections that are planned to be upgraded or can provide safe access egress to sites along the Route 301 corridor that have intermodal transportation access. Extensive landscaping and screening is required within this district in order to mitigate off-site impacts on less intensive uses. The technical committee based its decision on the application submitted. So what was before the committee was this request for LIHS and for suburban commercial on the smaller parcel. So the decision is based on the facts that were presented. The technical committee does include all county agencies and some state agencies. So relative to the application, the technical committee's responses to economic development opportunities such as the opportunity zones or the Route 301 corridor study, there were no inconsistencies in this recommendation relative to those other policy documents. So the technical committee put forward its recommendation based on input from from all agencies and on the application at hand. So in other words, staff wouldn't have looked at alternative districts or alternative selections. Because this is a public review, whatever application is submitted is a part of the public record. So
It's not their job to do that, to advise. Okay. All right, public comment.
Do I get a chance to address the committee's things?
Okay with me. Come on.
I just feel that we, as far as the APF is concerned, that's what we're asking for the planning change so that we can ensure that those APF standards are met. Because without the plan change, we don't even ever get the chance to look at the zoning change request, to actually change the zoning. I know this is all confusing for everybody. I get confused on it sometimes as well.
We're doing land use. We're not doing zoning changes.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. To change the land use, plan now so that we get the opportunity to come in and show that we can meet the APF standards with the septic, if public sewer is not available there, as well as address if there's any safety issues for ingress or egress from 301. I know this planning commission has approved LIHS for other locations other than that. One was on, I believe, was on Route 50, that was ultimately overturned by the circuit court simply because it was not on the 301 corridor. That was the only reason it was denied. I don't know if you recall that or not. I remember reading the case law on it last night.
When was that?
I don't know. I can look it up. But
Was it before you were born?
no, it was recently. It had to do with the 50 and 213 intersection, I believe. And then if they're using the language for the LIHS for denial because of the key intersections, well, when the zoning was written, what are the key intersections for the LIHS? You know, the zoning doesn't designate what those key intersections are. Right now, there's only one that's zoned that way with nothing there.
And why
Reasons
isn't there
why it's
anything
not.
there?
What's that? I'm sorry.
And-
There are very good reasons why the plans for 301 and 213 have not materialized.
And then, as far as we also requested at the same time, then if we can't meet the standards for the LIHS, that we would then request the SI.
I think we're repeating ourselves now.
Okay.
And also to clarify, technical committee's position is also to look at the existing zoning, what the surrounding area looks like, how would this proposed use interface with the surrounding land use designations, and have there been any significant changes within the current land use designation that would facilitate further discussion. And in terms of the long history of the agricultural zoning in this region, there were no significant changes in addition to the technical committee's inability to find consistency with the proposed use.
Scott, you're on.
Point of order question. I would like to testify in opposition to this application, but I do not want to lose my opportunity to testify on the comp plan, public comment. So that's my question.
They're separate issues.
Separate issue. That's what I want to make clear.
You got 3 minutes, and you're using them.
I won't take 3 minutes here. Scott McGlashan, Parson Green Farm, Churchill, Maryland. Basically, I want to recommend that your board take the recommendations of the technical committee. This, to me, is the proverbial cart before the horse, wanting to get something to see if something's going to happen as far as, and I think what I understand is highway improvements. Now, that to me would be an overpass at Route 19 and 301 to put a truck stop, a convenience store, anything on that gentleman's property. It's not there, and it's not going to be there, I don't think, for a long time. But to put some kind of facade out here, well, we just want to see if that's going to happen, that's ridiculous. Wait till the highway system, as you point out, is pointed out. If there's an overpass that goes there, I might be here to support that. It's not there. I oppose it. Less than 3 minutes. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Is there any other comments on this property?
Yes, ma'am. Howard Dean, 321 Robert Station Road, Churchill. First, I want to say that I've read the draft from Wallace and Montgomery, and it's missing some important aspects.
We're not talking about the comp plan right now. We're just talking about.
Well, I'll go back to
property.
the mapping then of that farm. There's a dragline ditch right behind where it's proposed.
There's a what?
A tax ditch the state put in years ago. It's a real deep ditch to drain off wet ground, and that's what this is, this farm. It's right on here. It should show the tax ditch. There it is, right there, right on there. See that green line that goes through there? That water runs into the Chester River, into the Chesapeake Bay. You put a truck stop there, all that's going to go downstream right to it. And I oppose this application. Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes, sir.
Keith Griffith, Summerville Commission President and Council of Governments Vice President. I was involved in a meeting last night that has your town plan work framing.
Is this on this particular property?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
this is gonna be even the absurd decision made last month as well, I feel. So this property, I understand, you know, the gentleman's wanting to put a business there. We have Barkley, Churchill, Millington, Sudlersville, Templeville. What they all have in common is in this new comp plan, they're not designated as a county planning area, and they're all northern Queen Anne's County. No one seems to have any interest in growth there. We don't, right now, we have nothing in that area for our young kids to get a job, to learn some work skills, things like that. They have to drive 30 minutes, the same as residents do. We've got to go to Dover, or we've got to go to Middletown. We're taking our Maryland money to Delaware when we could be spending it here. I just feel like that's completely unacceptable that last month when Mr. Clements approached you guys, a decision was made that wasn't even a full panel, which is unacceptable, I feel, to make decisions. And I don't feel that it was a very informed decision. It is 1.92 miles from Mr. Clements' property to Sudlersville. Sudlersville has water and sewer access. We're getting ready to run a 3-mile denied access line to Barkley so we can provide sewer and water, or sewer for them. The same thing could be done with these properties. At some point in time, the northern end of the county has to matter, and there has to be some sort of growth. Ride from the Delaware state line to 213 and just pay attention to how many vehicles have run into median or run off the road. That highway sees a lot more traffic now simply because of the bypass. So they go around Middletown, they have nowhere to stop and rest. The rest area is closed, as that gentleman said, from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. So if they're tired and wore out, they drive another 30 minutes. Could create a major accident. It's just something I think we need to take into account because it was ruled not consistent with the county's plan on Mr. Clements' property, but they also say they want growth on the 301 corridor. Which one is it? I'm curious because, you know, you can't say you don't want it and then the county saying we do want it. It's almost like people are talking out of both sides of their mouth with it. I think we need to get on the same page and understand that the northern end of the county needs some sort of growth for the future, or it's going to be nothing. And I just, you know, I feel like we've got businesses in Sudlersville now, one of them that is having to jump hurdle after hurdle because there's no plan in place and the county didn't know. So just every roadblock in the world is thrown before them when they're not trying to grow their business, they're trying to make their operation more efficient. And I feel like if more due diligence was done, I think smarter, wiser decisions would be made by this planning commission.
All right, thank you, Keith.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Do you have anything? Amy, do you have any more? Okay. So can I get a recommendation?
I'll make a motion, Madam Chair, to side with the recommendation of the technical committee and oppose both properties' request for land use change.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions or comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So unanimous. Is that the last one?
It is the only other portions that we had.
I have public comment for the comp plan. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, just an overview of the schedule moving forward. On Tuesday, there is going to be a joint update and work session between the Planning Commission and the County Commissioners. That time, the start time has actually been updated to 5 p.m., and that will be taking place in this room. And then for your October Planning Commission meeting, we will be back with the full draft, including all of the chapters and appendices. This binder here is my working copy of that, so, but we'll also provide a matrix that outlines both changes, major changes from the 2010 plan to this draft, as well as any major changes since you saw the initial drafts that you've reviewed over the past few months.
How long do you plan on that meeting to be?
So that's a nice segue. I wanted to give you a little update on the nature of that meeting. We would like to keep this meeting to an hour and 15 minutes, as it's a joint session and the county commissioners are going to conduct their regular business here in this room. So this room is going to be reorganized for the two boards to have their joint session for this update and to discuss some important topics that have arisen along the route. And then the Planning Commission will take a short recess, and the Planning Commission can exit or attend the meeting if they so choose, and then the meeting will reopen as the Commissioners' regular meeting. They would like to start that meeting by 6 or 6:15. I would anticipate with the update, which is very direct, and with some of the briefings that staff intends to give you from the technical committee's perspective, that we can be pretty succinct. And I know that there'll be an opportunity, as there is at every work session, for public comment. I wonder that the meeting might not take an hour and a half at the longest. All of our best intentions in place. So that's my guess, between an hour and an hour and a half.
Okay.
And so that leads me into a brief extemporaneous speech, which is this comprehensive rezoning review has been very difficult, and we knew that this was going to be a difficult round because of some of the limitations that the county is grappling with. So I do want to commend the board for all of your dedication in sifting through these applications. Staff has attempted to provide you with the best information possible and with as much complete information as we could provide. And I think in some ways we've provided you with that service, and in some ways I think we could have given you some more tools. With that said, we've been working on doing just that ever since that meeting, and we had to table a few of these items. So this meeting gave us a chance to get back together and revisit. The emphasis on the county's lack of capacity and inability to really provide services within its growth area or to expand its growth area is a very real and legally challenging position for the county to find itself in. We may be the first county in the entire Chesapeake Bay watershed to have encountered this planning dilemma. So with that said, we will go into a lot more detail at the joint meeting just to provide you with the history of how we got here in terms of pollution load reduction law and policy. And how it has directly impacted us as we're going through this comprehensive planning process. We've all been navigating uncharted waters on this. So we've been able to, I think, put together some more succinct information for you, and it's good that you and the county commissioners were here at the same time. And it may be likely that some of the comprehensive rezoning request decisions in that regard may be revisited by the county commissioners as a result of all of the information that will be brought before both of you simultaneously. Their role is the enactor of all of the codes in the county. It's your role to provide them with the best draft possible and the best recommendations that you can make with the information that you have. They have the ability to adopt your plan as presented, to make amendments to that plan, to send the plan back for reconsideration. We're hoping that this joint meeting will bring all of us onto the same page and that we'll still be on that clear path to be the first county who's undergoing its update to actually get that done. So we're still hoping to hold to that time frame. But I just kind of wanted to just bring that issue up so that you know that we will be discussing it further at the joint meeting.
Okay, now we're going on to public comment.
Just before they leave, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, to confirm next Tuesday, September 14th at 5 PM here in this
It's still on,
facility.
it's still on the,
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
On
The
this-
screen in front of us is reading 4:30?
Oh,
Okay, so I just wanted to double check.
5.
Okay, thank you.
5 o'clock, 5 to 6:30 at the latest, but we're promising to do better.
Thank you.
okay. Public comment, you're gonna have 3 minutes, you're limited to 3 minutes, and Scotty, you're on, and your time's counting.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, board members.
Introduce yourself again.
I hadn't started yet, has he? Come on. Scott McGlashan, Parson Green Farm, Churchill, Maryland. Good afternoon, and thank you very much. I want to revisit with you what we previously submitted here, the vision statement signed by farmers, farmland owners, and others committed to and wanting an updated comprehensive plan that will maintain and protect agricultural farmland north and east of Queenstown, and one that will maintain and continue to protect the Route 301 corridor from Queenstown to Millington. Bottom line, folks, we want no net loss of farmland. Let me repeat that. No net loss of farmland. For the benefit of anybody in all county citizens that may be viewing QACTV, and this is important, I think, and those of us wanting to better understand the issues and challenges surrounding septic reserve, I strongly suggest each of us review the Queen Anne's County TV archives and your planning commission meeting Howard Dean and I attended, and others attended, held on Thursday, August 12th, where Mr. Alan Quimby, our Public Works Director, testified that our county septic reserve allocations, except for some already allocated but not yet used, a very small amount of some infill, have now been met. No more large subdivisions, Queen Anne's County. As I reviewed his testimony at home, and I did it several times, he professionally explained, for those of us not familiar with state, federal, EPA restrictions and mandates that Queen Anne's County is under. And the county's held to. To me, in layman's terms, and I sat there, there's no magician's hat, and guess what? There's no rabbit to pull out of it. The future will, unchecked and unlimited affluent discharges in the Chesapeake Bay. As he sat here, we can't have that, or we're going to be fined. What did he say, 10 years ago we could buy our way out of it? No longer. We're not going to buy our way. The other thing, that fact, what he testified to, what Alan said, should clearly be put in the comprehensive zoning plan. So people, just what I testified earlier to, that proposal, thank you for voting that down, that proposal, putting the cart before the horse, how much staff time was spent on that proposal? There should be something in the comp plan that prevents idiotic things like that to even have to come before staff to expend time, and then you have to expend time on it. It should be in the plan. In closing, I want to say this, and I respect property rights. And Tom, I know this come up in Farm Bureau before, but I firmly believe in property responsibility. Let me finish this. I love and respected my father, and he once told me something I'll never forget, and something I live by today, folks. He said, son, you never own the land. You're only a steward for a very short period of time, Keep farming is the first priority in Queen Anne's County, the #1 industry in Queen Anne's County. Thank you for allowing me a little time.
Howard Dean.
Oh, and thank you for what you do too, folks. I mean that. I really mean that. And staff. I've gotten involved in this thing. I've been involved in government a little bit, but I found out it's a lot of hard work. And I appreciate what each and every one of you do. I really do. We do. Thank you.
Howard Dean, 321 Robert Station Road. I've had a chance to look at the draft from Wallace Montgomery, and they've left out some important aspects. I'm not going to take the 3 minutes to review all of it, but in short, agriculture community is wanting the plan to reflect commitment to agriculture by working to preserve as much productive land as possible and designate Route 301 corridor from Queenstown to Millington as a county agriculture scenic byway. This should not be that hard. We have nearly 200 signatures that show that it's important to have that reflected in the plan as recommendation. Most farmers in the area use 301 to move equipment, and it's important to get to a designation that emphasizes the county's commitment to our farmers. Please don't get this recommendation confused with the state or federal scenic highways programs. That's not what Scott and I are talking about. We simply want the comp plan to show that the agriculture community wants 301 and some of our primary roadways that go through important agriculture areas reflected as county agriculture scenic byways as a goal, and that's it. I hope the Planning Commission and County Commissioners will support our farmers by finding a way to make this a priority. And I'm going to leave this with it.
Thank you. Amanda Leager?
Morning.
Morning. Nice smile, by the way.
Thank you.
Afternoon.
Yeah, we've reached afternoon. My name is Amanda Lager. I live at 830 Del Fox Road in Sudlersville, Maryland. Hi, my name is Amanda Lager, and I appreciate your time to speak. Born and raised in Talbot County on a small active farm, I now reside in Queen Anne's County and have for the past 23 years. I'm very involved in the agricultural community. I want to support Howard and Scott on keeping the goal of Queen Anne's County Highway rural and limiting development on 301. I myself live in Sudlersville and travel 301 every day. Here's why. My husband was injured near 405 in a bad tractor accident versus tractor and trailer. It was one of the scariest times of my life. Over the years, I have seen numerous accidents, not only on Route 19, but some of the overpasses and overcrosses at 301, and several of them have been fatal. Without an overpass at this location, it would be insanity to develop any type of commercial entity at this location or any other at-grade intersection along 301. I hope you'll support the agricultural community by keeping the importance highway-free from development that's incompatible with the surrounding areas. Remember, at the end of the day, the farmer is who feeds you. Thank you.
Good job. Bonnie Roshi? Did I say that right?
I'm 80 years old and I tremor, so be careful. Good morning. My name is Bonnie Dean Roshi, and I own a farm on Greenville Road, which is between Roosburg and Star. My parents bought the farm in 1940 from the Centerville National Bank. My father died in 1984. He had been a Maryland State Senator from Queen Anne's County, and along with Harry Hughes, who was then a senator, they helped create the Tuckahoe State Park in the early 60s. And that took a long time, and it's a beautiful area. And my father believed the best thing ever is conservation. And he worked to preserve as much land as he could. And I'd just like to read this from his will. He said, "I respectfully call your attention to the deep and abiding love I have for the land as well as the woodland." He just loved everything about it. I grew up on the farm and actually did farm work. I could rake hay, drive a tractor. I showed cows and hogs and all that, so I know all about farming, or not all about it now, but I did. And my husband and I returned to the farm in 1992, and we rent our farm to Keith Leverton. And there's nothing more beautiful than watching Keith plant crops and then to watch the harvesting. They began harvesting yesterday. It's just a wonderful sight. And also, every farm in this county has a fascinating history. Ours dates that we have from 1805, and we even have a graveyard from that period on our farm. I love Queen Anne's County and all the farms and all the farmers, and I don't want to see urban sprawl up and down the 301 corridor. We owe it to ourselves and our descendants to save this corridor from becoming something that it shouldn't be. When it's gone, it's forever. It will take lots of careful thought and consideration. I urge you to think about the beauty of this county's rural landscape and listen to the majority of the people and listen to what Howard and Dean and Scott McGlashan said. Please protect the rural areas of Queen Anne's County. Thank you.
Did a terrific job. Thank you. Bill Mason. Okay. John Viglianti. Okay. Catherine Maddox. Okay. Trip Callahan.
I'm Trip Callahan. I'm a retired farmer from Roosburg, and I appreciate all your patience. You've been listening a lot this morning. My God, you've got more patience than I do. I'll be really quick. I want to thank the county government. I was born and raised here, and I've been here most of my life. For what you've done to keep this place from Queenstown. I'm talking about 301 in the comp plan. I sent an email last week, which will probably do a better job than what I do here, but the county has done a great job in my lifetime to keep this looking beautiful. It's a beautiful drive. It's beautiful farmland. I know the people who go up and down that road who are strangers should have good memories of Queen Anne's County, that this is, you know, if somebody asks them what's Queen Anne's County, it's beautiful farmland. And it's an oasis. And I think we should celebrate it. And productive farmland is our most valuable asset in this county, I believe. And it will be, like 50 or 100 years from now, even more valuable and more vital. And you guys, everybody, and the people who preceded you here have protected it and kept it good. And all I want to say is keep doing what you're doing. Stay on course. You're on the right track. Help us. The young farmers are great. They're doing a better job all the time. And the future generations will look back and say, you people did the right job if you don't have a lot of commercial development on this road. Thank you.
Thanks. And last but not least, Mike Lesnowski. Did he leave?
He went out to the corridor. I don't know if he's gone.
Well, that's the last one, so I would say we're finished. Any miscellaneous items? Okay, you covered everything. So I'm looking for my
Madam Chair,
favorite.
motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
I don't know why you're looking to your right.